Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a super cool story time that was sent in to me, but I've never had a story like this sent in. It involves a rich kid being destroyed, but not standard. Dude works in an investment bank, so, a little bit higher stakes on what's going on. Either way, I thought it would be something you guys would enjoy, so that's what we're going to be talking about. So before we get into it, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam, GTA 6 will never come out. Yeah, that's right, I'm holding it hostage, so press the like button and let's go. Oh, and here's the comment of the day. Don't worry, I didn't forget. I forgot for a bit, but not anymore. Alright, so as I said, the guy that sent this in to me works at an investment bank, and he's not high up or anything, he's like at the very bottom of the totem pole, but technically his title is asset manager, so he's got a little bit of experience managing the stocks, mostly handling like 401k accounts for companies, because I guess that's like a good job for new people, because there's a ton of regulations, you really have to stick to the guidelines. So, like, you really can't go lose a bunch of money doing stupid stock stuff because you have to have certain amounts of X, X, and Y. So he had been doing that for a while, and he was enjoying it, and he understood that, like, you gotta work your way up, like, it just is what it is. It was a lot of work, but he saw that eventually, if you keep going and you get to the good part, you make a lot of money. And one day, he's sitting in his office, and his boss comes in, and he seems kinda shy. And his boss is not a shy guy. Like, usually, you'd be thinking to yourself, please shut up, if he was standing there talking to you, because it was just an endless stream of words. And he finally comes clean, and he's like, alright, my boss, so the guy above him, wants him to hire his kid. And he was gonna be starting the next day, and, he was wondering if he would train him. And the guy's standing there like, bro, I'm handling the accounts that you told me are so easy, anyone couldn't mess it up. Like, a baby could manage this account, and you want me to train your boss's kid? And he's like, yeah, I know you're new, but I just think you'll probably be the best at it, because he doesn't have a whole lot of education about it. He's just dipping his toe in. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wanting to try something before you dedicate your life to it. That's a perfectly reasonable position. Like, okay, make sure you like something before you dedicate yourself to it. But I feel like investment banking isn't really one of those things that you can kind of dip your toe in the kiddie pool on. Like, I feel like that topic, you either dive in or you don't. In my mind, it's like one of those topics, it's like law or being a doctor or like something that takes a ton of knowledge, like doctorate level stuff, being a professor. In order to get to that level, you can't really just be like, I want to try being a professor for a week. Like, well, no, you have to have years and years of knowledge in order to like know what they know. But whatever, he's like, yeah, sure, if you really want me to do it, fine. I can train him, I guess. And so his boss is pretty grateful. He's like, thank you. He's going to be cool. Like, I promise it's going to be fine. And he's just not really knowing what to expect. He was going in with no expectations, because that way there's no way to be, like, dramatically disappointed. This could go good. This could go bad. Like, that's the attitude to have in a situation similar to this one. And you would think that if he had gone out of his way to, like, set up this job, even if his dad is the boss, like, if he had gone out of his way to apply himself, and maybe learn a little bit, he would come in willing to learn even more. I feel like if it's your first day in a job in an industry you know nothing about, like, you should just be trying to learn as much as humanly possible. Because you're not an expert. There's a reason you're like an intern here. It's not because you're some stock trading genius. This guy hasn't been to school for finance. He has no, like, investing experience outside of what he's done on Robinhood, which sure is experience, but not really the same thing as, like, managing multiple millions of dollars in portfolios for companies. Like, it's just not the same thing. Well, the guy comes in, and I'm going to name him Eric for this story. That's not his name, but I just feel like naming him Eric. And Eric comes in and is off the rip super polite to the guy's boss. He's like, wow, thank you so much for this opportunity. This is going to be great. He introduces him to Mark, which is the name of the subscriber. And he's like, Mark knows a lot. He just started here, so he's probably going to be good at explaining things that he wishes would have been explained a little bit better to him. So you guys are going to be working together. And Eric is like, oh, it's so great to meet you. I'm so excited to work together. And as soon as the boss walks away, it's like Eric gets possessed by a demon, and he just snaps at him. Listen, man, I've watched tons of investing videos on YouTube, so I don't need any training, okay? I just want you to stay out of my way and let me do what I have to do. My goal is to get in and take over this company in a year. Like, bro is acting like he's straight out of Wolf of Wall Street, you know? I don't think he watched that movie to the end where they go to jail. Like, he's just coming in, I don't need any training. I'm not saying that there's not a lot of, like, knowledge on YouTube. You can learn about a lot of stuff on YouTube. But I do feel like, once again, investment banking is one of those things that, like, YouTube videos doesn't count as real-world experience. Imagine there's a medical emergency and the guy pulls up and he's like, all right, guys, don't worry. I've watched a YouTube video on how to perform a lobotomy. And they're like, dude, his ankle is broken. Why would you need to do brain surgery? You can learn a lot. You can have a lot of real world experience. And some people are geniuses and they don't need it. But that's not this situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a savant and you're just out there trading stocks on your own and you're a multi-billionaire, none of this applies to you because you're a 1 in a bajillion chance. You're like the Taylor Swift of the investing world. But whatever, he just gets really snappy acting like he knows it all. And Mark doesn't really know how to react to this, so he tries to nicely tell him, like, you know, I'm glad you've learned about this a little bit, and I had a bunch of previous knowledge coming in too, but there's a lot of stuff that you probably don't know about that we have to kind of go over, like there's a lot of laws and regulations. And Eric cuts him off and says, you old folks don't get it anymore, all right? I get that you're threatened because you realize I'm the future, but it is what it is. And at that point, Mark decides that he's not going to go out of his way to help this dude. He's just gonna let him do what he has to do. And the way that they train new people just to see their level of knowledge and, like, see if they could understand concepts being taught to them but not risk the business any money, is they had the entire, like, the trading account management set up, not necessarily like day trading, but just portfolio management set up, and then they would give them $50,000, but like fake money, but they didn't tell them that. Like, it was the real software, but the money was not real. The prices were real, the movements were real. So that way, if they're an idiot and they, like, break the law, it's not like this entire investment bank has to go belly up. They're just training them. And it's not a ginormous investment bank, by the way. I didn't realize that there's some that are not big. In my mind, all of them are just like Goldman Sachs because I don't know a lot about it. But this guy's is like, you know, there's like 40 people that work there. It's relatively large. And so he sets him up the account and he's like, all right, well, if you need anything, please let me know. Like, I'm seriously here to help. I just started about 2 years ago, so like I can help you. And once again, Eric cuts him off and he's like, listen, Mark, I don't need your help. All right. I'm here to outperform you. Okay. And he just can't believe the ego on this dude. Because here's the thing. Obviously, if you're at the job to make money for people, then, like, you want to be the best at making money. Everyone knows that. That's just like an unspoken agreement amongst everybody there. But you don't have to throw your coworkers in the dumpster to do it. Like, everyone can make money, you know? It's not like only one of you has to have the ability to make money there. You have to snuff out everybody else. Hopefully, there's not only one guy at the bank that's capable of making money at a time. Could you imagine how bad the Sith would be at business? Awkward Star Wars side note, but like, okay, there's only 2 of them. No wonder they haven't been able to succeed, dude. They don't have the funds. Oh no, there's 2 of us, like the Jedi, dude. You know, they figured it out. For a while, all right, we're not going to talk about what happened after, but for a while, think about it. How are you supposed to scale your business without, like, a bunch of employees? And stormtroopers don't count because they suck. Like, let's be honest. We've seen stormtrooper accuracy. Either way, he's just really going to let this kid, like, jump into the deep end. And if he can swim, sweet. But if not, it's not his problem anymore. But they had a way to make sure that if somebody was, like, going to really deny the training, that they had to sign an agreement with their trainer just so that way they couldn't go to the boss later and be like, oh, well, they never taught me anything. It's their fault. So you have to sign a paper being like, I told them that I do not want any training. I am 100% sure that I don't want any training. In fact, if anyone tries to train me, I will do the most insane 360 no-scope Cobra Kai kick that you've ever seen in your life, and I will disconnect your jaw from the rest of your skull. But he goes to tell his boss about it because, you know, it's his boss's son. So if he's going to mess up and, like, not sign this training agreement and not take any training, then he figures that his boss probably should know about it just to be aware of it. And his boss is like, can you please try to help him? Please, like go in there and try one more time. And so Mark, being guilt-tripped by his boss, decides that he's going to go try one more time to talk to Eric. So he goes over there, and Eric literally, before he even says anything, says, "Go away, Mark, I'm trying to work." So he goes back to his boss, almost like he's playing ping pong back and forth, and tells him. And so his boss says he's going to go try. So he goes to Eric's cubicle and says, "Wait here," to Mark, like in his office. And he comes back 15 minutes later looking mad and says to Mark that Eric told him, the boss, that he was gunning for his job and he doesn't want any help. And even Mark is flabbergasted by that. Like, it's one thing to tell off some dude, I guess, that you don't really know, but to tell the guy that is giving you the chance to screw off and you're gunning for his job is a little out there. Like, that's a little disrespectful, you know? Even if your dad is super high up in the company, I don't think he would like that, because I'm sure he would not appreciate somebody coming in and speaking to him like that the same way, you know? He is your boss at the end of the day. So whatever, he's over here threatening everybody's job like he's just got the ability to just fired everybody. But then he pulls something out that surprises Mark. He has another letter where he rejected training from the boss. So now they have proof that he's rejected training from 2 different people. And he kind of asks his boss, like, well, why did you get a second one, you know? And he says, because I just, by the vibe the kid gave me about gunning for my job, know that the kid's going to do something shady if he can't perform. Like, he's going to try to find a way to blame us, and it's just a gut feeling. So they're waiting in the office, kind of talking about stuff, and about 30 minutes later, after this entire interaction, right? So not a very long period of time, Eric comes into the boss's office, doesn't knock, just flings the door open and walks in. "Hey, I need more money in that account. I'm almost out of the 50. And they're like, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Yeah, I made a few bad trades, just beginner's bad luck, so I'm going to need some more money because it's gone." And they're like, "Dude, there was $50,000 in that account. How did you do that?" Keep in mind, they tell the new guys that it's real. It's not like this guy is aware of the fact that it was play money and he was taking risks that maybe he wouldn't with real money. They think it's real. So he's just casually coming in like, "Oh, I just lost 50 grand. It doesn't matter." And so they're asking him, like, why did he do that? How did he do that? Like, how is he not freaking out? And he just kind of shrugs his shoulders and goes, "I know sometimes you got to spend money to make money, huh?" Yeah, dude, but you're not opening a business. That's not like a saying for investment banking. Your only job is to take money and turn it into more money. That's literally it. That is literally your only job. Spending money to make money applies to like advertising for a business, maybe buying new equipment, getting a new website or something. It doesn't necessarily apply to like investment banking. "Oh, hey, I took all of the money you gave me to invest and I spent it all. We're not going to get any of it back, but I will say that it was sweet. And if you're asking why I did it, you got to spend money to make money. So somewhere along this line, we're going to make the money back because I spent it and it's going to be a good time." Like, that's just not how it works. The boss, though, knows that Eric isn't just like the standard guy, and because it is $50,000 in fake money, he has to be careful because he doesn't want him to go to his boss and get him fired. So he says that he's going to give him an additional $50,000. Tells him it's real money, it's not, but makes it very clear to Eric that this is real. And he says, "Okay, I'll be careful, just put it in my account," and he walks out before anything else can be said. And Mark looks at his boss and is like, "Why did you give him another $50,000? Why are you doing all this?" And he says, "Well, the guy just lost $50,000 in 30 minutes. So when I inevitably have to fire him and I have to have that conversation with my boss, who's his dad, I have to make sure that I have some pretty good reasonings as to why that went down. And if the kid manages to lose 100 grand in the first 2 weeks of working here, I feel like that's a pretty good reason." And it stinks that, like, that's the way the world works sometimes. You have to have double extra proof that somebody's not cut out for the job because of who their parents is, bro. Parents are. Sorry, that was just a real bad English moment. But you guys get what I'm saying. Like, if this was anybody else and you managed to lose $50,000 in 30 minutes, they probably just would have escorted you out. It's not like you would have gotten another chance at that point. But maybe, just maybe, Eric got off to a bad start. He can pull it out. Nope. Absolutely not. 2 days later, Eric runs out of money and storms in asking for more. And Mark happened to be in the office that time too, and his boss says, no, you need to have a seat, Eric, we have to talk. And he tells him that they're going to have to let him go because it's just not working out. He had lost $100,000 in a week. He had refused to listen. It's just not going to work. And Eric just starts going absolutely ballistic, you know? How dare you ignore my talent? I'm going to be the best stock investment man of all time. What talent are they ignoring, man? The talent would be if you were good at making money. You actually did the exact opposite. You somehow found a way to do the exact opposite. So the boss doubles down and says, hey, it's just not going to work. You're not cut out for this type of stuff. And Eric, of course, pulls out the big guns. Do you have any idea who my dad is? And the boss is very blunt and says, it's not going to work. I would not recommend getting your dad involved. And Eric gets up, pulls out his phone, and starts yelling that, just wait till my father hears about this. Some straight up Charlie and the Chocolate Factory level stuff. And storms out. And they see him out in the parking lot on the phone talking, and he's super animated, so you can tell he's just pissed off. And he hangs up and comes back in all smug and says that, my dad's gonna come in and talk to you about this. And the boss doesn't get scared. He just smiles and says, all right, man, I told you wouldn't want to get your father involved, because he had just fallen into the trap card, bro. Now he gets to explain to your dad how bad you are at this. And about an hour later, a dude in a suit comes in, clearly a very important fellow, and he's like, hi, I'm blank, I'm here to meet with your manager, and they go into this room, and Eric and Mark are called in since Mark witnessed everything and Eric's involved. And the dad opens extremely pissed off, rip. I thought I could trust you to train my son. He says you didn't train him and you set him up to fail to make an example out of him, you should have given him some training. It's not his fault he couldn't perform since he wasn't trained. And the boss doesn't let Eric's dad finish before he has the forms out. He doesn't interrupt him, but as he's speaking, he pulls the forms out. And as the dad, finishes his little rant about how no one trained him, he hands him the papers and he says, well, here's the 2 papers that he signed saying that he did not want our training and that we were not to get involved with him at all. And I think, what was it? And he looks at Eric, buzz off. Is that what you said? And Eric kind of eyes go wide and he realizes, oh crap, this might not go the way that I thought it was going to go. And his dad's face changes and he looks at Eric and he's like, Eric, why did you say that you didn't want help? Why did you do this? And even then, you denied it from 2 people. Why did you go out of your way to sign these? And Eric, still a little bit embarrassed, but not fully gone of his ego, decides to double down. I know what I'm doing, Dad. I don't need training. And it's at that point that it registers, oh, my kid did this to himself. This is not their fault. Very obviously, there's a problem here. And so he kind of starts trying to double down and says that his trades were making all this money and they don't know where, the idea that he isn't performing comes from. And his boss says, all right, well, let's just pull up your account. And Mark smiles because he knows that this account is going to be just the worst managed thing of all time. And sure enough, he pulls it up, puts it on this big screen for everyone to look at, and he had managed to lose $100,000 somehow before the first week had ended. And he pulls up every transaction. They go over them all, explaining where it was, how much money it lost. And something that you have to realize about the stock market is a broken clock is still right twice a day. The time is still that twice. So even if you're just dumb and you're gambling, eventually you should be able to have a profitable trade. Overall, you'll definitely lose money, but everyone could have doubled their money one time if you're just throwing money into random stuff. This guy had somehow managed to lose money on every trade, which is almost more impressive. He somehow actually beat the odds of straight up gambling at being bad. That's going above and beyond. That means he wasn't just picking random stuff. He was putting research in and just being wrong every single time. So it takes a while, but they finally get to the end of all these transactions. And Eric is sinking into his chair the entire time because he realizes what's going to happen. But now his dad is pissed off too, and he turns to Eric and he's like, you told me you were doing good and they weren't teaching you anything. And Eric, not realizing how dumb this sound goes, well, it would have been fine if they went the opposite direction. Yeah, that's not really how it works, If you put money in a company expecting it to go up and it goes down, you can't go, man, 50-50 chance, you still lost money. It's not just a coin flip. And so at that point, his dad turns to Mark and his boss and starts apologizing and is like, I'm so sorry, I get it, I understand that Eric can't work here anymore. And Eric interrupts his dad and is like, what about my job? I need to work. And his dad now is fully embarrassed. Remember, he drove away from his job to come down here and try to get involved and keep his son's job. And he says that he's just been embarrassed enough. Eric blew this opportunity. He's not going to go to bat for him anymore. And Eric starts looking like the whole world just landed on his shoulders, bro. The first time he had heard no in his life, the first time he had ever failed, and they end up leaving. But the entire time, the boss is super apologetic, which is good on him. I feel like most people probably would have either been mad or been embarrassed and just fled as fast as possible. At least he had the awareness to realize that it was his kid's fault. Either way, I am going to give credit to Mark's boss for knowing exactly how that was going to go down. He's like, look, we need the forms. We need to make sure that we got enough proof to show that it's really not going to work, because he did exactly what he thought he was going to do. Eric, a little bit of advice, man. There's plenty of ways to be very successful that don't involve working and investing. You know, there's tons of people that make a lot of money not in investment banking. I think you're going to have to be one of those people. You sound extra bad at investing. It's not for everybody. Either way, that's the first story that I have for today's video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate you pressing the like button, and let's get on to the next. Alright, before we get into the next story time, on screen now is a gift card code. I give one of these away in every video, just to say thank you to everyone who's subscribed with those notifications on. So if you haven't already, you might as well just scroll down there, subscribe, turn on those noties, and if you already are, then you're a legend. You already know. So yeah, I'll shut up and let's get into the next story. Alright, this next one was sent in to me by somebody named Max, who works at a store in the mall. And it's one of the 4 stores in every mall that sells the exact same stuff, but they all have different names and they're all a different company, but they sell the exact same thing. And it was right around back to school time, and it just so happened that this mall still is a madhouse. I was kind of surprised it still gets busy there. I feel like everyone just does the online shopping thing, but people are everywhere. It's packed. Some people are just throwing clothes up in the air just to try to make a distraction while they run for the exit. It's been a crazy day. And this guy comes in with his mom, and something is very weird about the way they're staring at him. It's almost like they're sizing him up, and he doesn't know them. He's just working. And he walks up to them because they're staring at him, and he's like, hey, can I help you guys with anything? And they both look at him, very clearly look at his name tag, and then go, Max! And he's confused because, like I said, he has no clue who these people are. 100% does not know them. And so he tries to, nicely ask, hey, who are you guys? It's been a while. I don't really recognize you. You look so different. And the spoiled kid, who I'm just going to refer to as spoiled kid, goes, Max, are you kidding me? Come on, it's me, bro. And Max is just kind of standing there staring at him. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm confused. And he, instead of explaining who he is, saying a name or anything, goes, oh, Max, it's totally cool. Anyways, since we're old friends, can I use your employee discount? And it clicks. Oh, they were sizing me up because they were like, I bet you we can trick that guy into letting us use his employee discount. He probably thought that most people in a very awkward situation like this wouldn't want to admit, bro, I don't know you, so they would just be nice and let you use the discount. I don't know, that still seems like a long shot, but either way, Max is like, I don't know these. So now that he realizes that they're trying to mess with him, he decides that he's going to troll them back. Because look, if you're going to make me pretend to know you to try to get a discount, I feel like trolling them back is just allowed. And so Max, not wanting to get played, says, anyways, I'm more than happy to let you use the employee discount, but our policy is that you have to know my mom's name. That's how close we have to be. And the kid and the Karen look at each other like deer in headlights and are shocked. And the spoiled kid's like, oh, come on, Max, there's no need for that. Come on, we go way back. And it's not even a rule. He totally made that up. He just wanted to mess with them. And so Max decides to mess with them a little bit further. He has this woman manager that's a little bit older who's insanely chill, the best manager to work with, super fun, great. And they kind of have fun trolling rude customers from time to time. And so he calls her over and she comes over and he's like, hey, do you recognize them? And she says no, because obviously she doesn't. And the spoiled kid, who keep in mind goes way back with Max, definitely knows his mom's name but isn't going to say it right now, goes, oh, who is this? And Max takes this chance to mess with him and goes, dude, it's my mom. Don't you know her? And you would have thought that the two of them saw a ghost. They were like, so great to see you. And like I said, this manager's super chill and fun to work with, so she kind of rolls with it and is like, oh, are you a friend of Max's? It's so great to get to know people that are friends with my son. And they start freaking out, and they're like, yeah, it's so great to see you. And so Max says, yeah, they say they know us, Mom. Where do we know you from? And once they start asking questions, the mom grabs her son by the arm and says, whoops, we were mistaken, let's go. And before they can peel out of there, which is clearly their intention, Max, wanting to just like drive home the embarrassment a little bit, goes, oh, you were mistaken? Well then, why did you say my name? Like, you said my name, you know? How would you be mistaken if you knew my name? And they both just get really bright-eyed and don't say anything and just run out of the store. They don't literally run, but you know that like hurried walk that people do when they've clearly got somewhere to be, but it's inappropriate to run in public? I'm just saying, if I see an adult running in public outside of like literally running clothes, like if someone's running in running clothes, you know what's happening. But if you ever see a dude in a suit just sprinting, I'm just gonna assume that whatever is that direction is scary. Like, cause why is a dude in a suit sprinting that way? Either way, that was stupid. I apologize. I don't know. They leave. Him and the manager crack up, but then they start talking about it, and they're like, I don't really even understand the point. You're just gonna confuse me into thinking I know you for like a 10% off code? Like, dude, just go online and look one up. If anything, I feel like it's easier to get those discount codes online rather than going in and trying to convince someone that you're old childhood friends. Super sick that you have a manager that just kind of lets you troll customers though, you know? Like, most managers would be like, that's so inappropriate! Alright, and the last story I have, yeah, that's right, there's another one. You know what? I'm gonna do it again. Press the like button, because we're 26 minutes in and I still got another one. Anyways, this is from something that I witnessed. So I end up going to this restaurant with a few of my friends, which is like downtown in the town I live in. And there's always something dumb going on downtown in the town I live in. In the town I live in. Why did I like just do a country song stutter right there? I apologize. Anyways, we walk in and we see like a huge 1 in 8 balloon, and we assume that someone is either turning 81 or 18, because those are the two combinations right there, and we don't see a ton of old people, so we just assume there's gonna be a birthday party. And we walk past it in the lobby, and after that, I kind of forgot it existed. It's not like it was something that I really was sitting there thinking about. Who really cares? People have birthdays, people have balloons. It's not a big deal. It's just funny because it involves later the spoiled kid having to like sadly take the balloons out. Anyways, we start like eating our meal and we're just having ourselves a normal conversation, and all of a sudden we hear this commotion behind us. It's like a ton of screaming, and we turn around and we see this guy holding the balloons, and he's yelling, "It's my birthday!" And it's not like in a celebratory, like, it's my birthday way, you know, it's a very angry, it's my birthday, like he's telling somebody off, a very angry man. And the entire restaurant gets really quiet because obviously everyone's turning their attention to this and kind of like, hold on, let's see what's going on. I'm not saying that reality television is just based on society, but I think if people start making a scene, the natural human reaction is to just watch. I think that's why reality TV does well, because it's just people making a scene all the time. Anyways, what's very apparent is he's yelling at somebody for ordering something that he doesn't like. Keep in mind, they're not ordering it for him. It's not like, oh, we only get to order one thing and we're all gonna share. There's a ton of people. They had just ordered something that they wanted to eat that he was not a fan of. And he's yelling at them because apparently it's insanely rude to order something that the host doesn't like if you're out at a restaurant, but you're not the host, you're at a restaurant, and on top of that, who cares? Like, that's so stupid, bro. There's some food that I'm not a fan of, but if I'm out to dinner with my friend and they order it, I'm not gonna be like, oh, are you disgusting? Do you know how rude you are? No, who cares? Like, people have different tastes, dude. Imagine getting yelled at because you ordered something someone else doesn't like. And of course, the person isn't really taking it, but they're not yelling back. The only reason we know is because the birthday boy just kept yelling, like, you can't argue with me on my birthday. Are you crazy? Do you remember that old Tyler, the Creator Vine where it's like, what, did you bring me a birthday gift for my birthday on my birthday to celebrate my birthday? And he smashes the wine glass. That was really the vibe of what was going on. Like, you can't argue with me. It's my birthday. I hate people that think their birthday just gives them an excuse to do whatever they want. Like, congratulations, it's your birthday. It is a special day. People should be nicer to you than normal. However, I do think some people take it too far and they're like, whatever, officer, who cares that I punched the police horse? It's my birthday. And it's like, oh, you can't do that. You can't really scream at everybody and freak out on them just because it's your birthday. But whatever, everyone's just kind of watching, and the manager walks up at this point because he's realized everybody's watching. And then the birthday boy starts going off on the manager because it's his birthday. Who do you think you are? You can't tell me what to do. Do you have any clue what day it is? Yes, you can probably guess what day it is. I don't want to say it again. And you can't really hear the manager because he's not yelling, but he's trying to kick the party out. And the entire party, realizing that they're causing a scene and everyone's staring, they just get up and leave, except for the birthday boy. Like, they realize, all right, let's get out of here. This is insanely embarrassing. I don't want to be here. But the birthday boy stands there and keeps arguing. And it was like everyone hit their maximum embarrassment and left but him. He proceeds to start going in on the manager. I'm talking about every insult under the sun. He's calling him stupid. He's calling him poor. He's calling him just like a loser. You name it, he's hurling it at him. And he's taking it like a champ. Honestly, dude, this guy definitely grew up in a Call of Duty lobby because he was like, oh, that's it? That's all you got? I'm a stupid poor loser? Oh, okay, buddy. Yeah, all right, look at you. You're freaking out holding balloons, buddy. Like, what do you want me to do? Take this insult seriously? Anyways, he lets that out and the manager goes, happy birthday, get out, and walks away, which was just an absolute G move. And after that, the birthday boy stomps outside and starts yelling at everybody out there for leaving. He probably was like, oh, why'd you guys abandon me? But I'll tell you why, because you were freaking out and causing a scene for literally no reason, and everyone was staring at you because it's your birthday. I feel like after that, I would definitely not go to that person's birthday again. I probably wouldn't really hang out with them either. Like, dang, man, that's a little wild. At least this person's not, like, insanely old. Like, 18 is definitely too old to be doing this, but, like, at least it's not a 37-year-old. Like, at that point, you're just not gonna change. You know, I feel like people can change a ton when they're like a young adult, like 18, 20, 30s. Once you hit like 40 though, bro, like how much changing you really gonna do? Maybe that's doomer of me because I'm not that old yet. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I'd really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. If you also enjoyed, you should go ahead and comment. This was a really long one, so I'd appreciate the comment and the like. It just helps the video do better. And if you're new, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you never miss out. And if you want to listen to this in a podcast form, I do post these on Spotify as a podcast. Feel free to check that out. And because the Christmas season is approaching, I'm going to take the time to plug the Christmas Karen sweater. Look at this thing. It's absolutely glamorous. Back again this year. So if you want to get the Karen Christmas sweater, I'll throw the link down below. No pressure. But on that note, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. And I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story time for y'all I know you're going to love because it involves a spoiled kid getting absolutely dumpstered by his mom. This story time was sent in to me by somebody who works in a restaurant, and this insanely entitled kid and his friends came in and were acting like morons, not realizing that their mom was around, and I guess mom was not down with the antics and ended up embarrassing them in front of absolutely everybody. But it sounded like something you guys would enjoy, so I figured I'd make it into a video. So without further ado, let's go. Alright, so like I said, this person was working in a restaurant, and it was a nicer restaurant, but on this particular day, it was like the middle of a weekday, so it was super slow. There wasn't a lot of people in the restaurant, and you know, a group of dudes walked in that were older, like 18, 19, 20-ish. 5 of them came in and like immediately started giving off super douchey vibes. But because it was super dead, you know, they were kind of like, well, we'll sit them and make a little bit of money because otherwise we're probably not going to have customers for a long time. But they were immediately giving off douche vibes because one of the first things they did once they walked into the restaurant was like toss a metal credit card at the host stand and then start tapping on it to get their attention. The host was kind of like, hey, how are they? You know, trying to make some small talk, ask them if, you know, they wanted to eat, hear how many were in their table. But the guy like completely blew off the questions the host was asking and was like, well, my credit card is metal, so I'm going to assume my day is going better than yours. And then like looked at his friends and laughed. Which, you know, as far as first impressions go is way up there in terms of like pretty douchey. The person trying to sit you at this restaurant, how's your day? You, I have a metal credit card. Like, oh, okay, man, that doesn't really answer my question, but whatever floats your boat. So immediately off rip, these guys are just kind of acting entitled. But because the restaurant is so dead, they're like just gonna deal with it. So they get sat in this waiter section who sent this into me. And at that exact moment, the waiter was just kind of busy doing something their boss had asked him to do. And they was gonna finish up in about 10 seconds. So they just decided to finish what they were doing and go over there. Well, in the 10 seconds it took them to finish their task and start heading over there, I guess they had gotten annoyed. And when they saw him walking over, the guy in charge of the table, you know, with Mr. Metal credit card, started literally like snapping his fingers to get the waiter to come faster, which is just really annoying, bro. Don't snap at people. The guy literally took 10 seconds to finish what he was doing. He's walking over. There's no reason to be like, come faster, please, Mr. Sir. Get over here. That's just demeaning, dude. Don't snap at me. Anyways, obviously it pisses him off, but he goes over there and is trying to, like, be nice about it. And before he can even open his mouth, he smiles and they cut him off. And the lead guy, who had snapped his fingers, thrown the metal credit card, the whole shebang so far, opens up with, all right, man, I'm gonna talk slow enough for you to understand, okay? We need the most expensive champagne you have here. And he, like, had this metal credit card and he taps it on the table, right? And now this guy's straight up annoyed because he had walked over trying to be nice. They started snapping at him. Now they're like, we're gonna talk slow enough for you to understand, demanding that he grab the most expensive stuff. So he's not gonna try to like make small talk anymore, but if they want the most expensive bottle of champagne, it's kind of his job. So he says he's gonna need to see some ID. And the kid like smiles and goes, oh, ID? Here you go, and hands him the credit card. And the waiter looks down and is like looking at this metal credit card that this kid has given him, which is apparently his ID. And he's like, this is not an ID. And the kid's response is to like scoff a little bit and go, yeah, but do you have any idea how much money I could charge to that credit card? And the waiter is like, yeah, I bet you a lot. You know, it's very heavy. It's cool, but it doesn't really matter because I still can't sell you alcohol without an ID. It doesn't matter how much money you can charge to your card. And the kid's response is like, well, if you don't want to make money, that's on you, bro. And the waiter's like, it has nothing to do with me not wanting to make money, man. I just don't want to break the law and get in trouble or be fired. And he's like, well, whatever, man. It's fine. I get it. Just do us a favor then and get us 5 steaks. They better all be medium rare, okay? And like, you know, the waiter's like, all right, bro, okay, let's go from most expensive bottle of champagne to 5 steaks, whatever floats your boat, Mr. Metal credit card. And he writes it down, you know, and takes the order to the kitchen to drop it off. And he goes to take them water after that, and he drops off their water, and he's like, can I get you guys anything else to drink? And the douchey kid looks at him and goes, excuse me, dude, do you see that we're in the middle of a conversation? Can you just leave us alone, please? And once again, the waiter is like flabbergasted at how rude these kids are being, right? Just insanely entitled, just no reason to be acting like this. And so he walks away, and his manager walks up to him and is like, bro, what is the issue with these dudes? And he's like, honestly, I don't know, but I've never had more entitled customers before. Like, they're just telling me to leave them alone, snapping at me. They're not letting me talk. It's annoying. So the manager's like, all right, we'll just let them be till their food comes out. And like, you know, you won't have to deal with them for very longer. We probably shouldn't have sat them, but it's too late now. And so he waits a little bit. Obviously, the steaks eventually get ready. And so he takes it over, and they're like laughing as he's bringing the food over. And the spoiled kid is like, dude, you're actually a moron, man. We never told you that we wanted 5 steaks. And the waiter is like confused if they're trying to mess with him, if they realize they didn't have enough money to pay for it. Like, he didn't really understand what they were doing because they definitely had ordered it. And so he's like, well, you guys ordered it, so I don't really understand. And the kid's like, no, we didn't order it, dude. Can you even prove it? And the waiter is super confused, but is like, yeah, I can. And pulls out his little notepad and shows them where he had written it down, you know? And they're like, okay, fine, we ordered it. We were just trying to mess with you, bro. And he's like, oh, okay, that was really funny. You know, just like super deadpanned, obviously not amused by it because it's just not a very funny joke. I just don't really understand the joke there, to just very obviously order something and then try to like convince them you didn't order it. Wow, bro, that's sick. No way. How'd you do that? I just said something and then just pretended that I didn't say it when you brought me what I asked for. Like, I just don't understand how it's a joke. But they follow up pretending that they didn't order the steaks by being like, well, they're cooked wrong anyways. Keep in mind, they haven't even had the food placed in front of them or taken a bite yet. They just know by looking at it that it's cooked wrong. And he's like, are you guys serious? And they kind of snap about how, yes, they're serious. This is supposed to be a nice restaurant. Who is he to be questioning them? They needed it to get fixed. And he's like, all right, guys, I'll go fix it for you, you know? And he smiles a little bit, and he's just trying to kill him with kindness, and he tells tells him he's gonna get fixed, and he walks back into the kitchen, and just to decide to see if they're just being jerks for no reason, he just kind of like put it under this the lamps that keep food warm, stood there for 2 minutes, and then came back and gave them the exact same steak. Which, listen, I understand is not the most pro waiter move, okay? Probably not the most MLG waiter move. That being said, bro, if people were treating you like this and like demanding that you go fix their food when they haven't even tried it yet, I probably would be petty enough to do the same thing. I'm not saying I'm above this. But of course, he was just kind of testing to see if they were just trying to cause problems. So he goes and gives them the exact same steak. Oh, that's a tongue twister. Same steak. Sorry, my goodness. And wow, wouldn't you know it, somehow magically it's much better. And he's like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, you guys are just being jerks. It is what it is. Anyways, at that point, he goes away and is just going to let them eat and was just going to leave them alone and not deal with it. But he is just looking around the restaurant and he sees what appears to be a very angry woman walking up to the host stand. And they had a shift change, so now it's a hostess at the host stand. And she's talking to the hostess and looks super pissed off. You know, like really, really mad, red in the face, like the spit flying out the mouth. And the waiter is just like, wow, I don't know what this lady's angry about, but we're about to have a Karen encounter at the exact same time that these spoiled kids are here. This is crazy. But the hostess turns around and she doesn't look scared at all, so he's kind of confused. And then he sees the hostess point at the table which all these kids are at. And he sees the Karen like starting to stomp over, looking very angry, and she gets over to the table and starts yelling, "So you took my credit card to impress your friends, huh?" And all of a sudden, everyone at that table just turns as white as a ghost, bro. Like, their souls are literally leaving their body in that moment, you know? The imposter has been revealed among us. Oh, that was a corny joke. I'm sorry for making you guys listen to that. Anyways, but the mom keeps yelling at them like, "Why do you always do this? Oh, and you got everyone steaks. How nice." And she's reaming into him about how, you know, it's not okay for him to take the credit card and buy expensive stuff to impress people without her permission. And at this point, she is causing a scene. It's pretty dead. There's not a lot of people in there, but still, it's not a good look for the restaurant to have this screaming going on. So the manager goes over and asks what's happening. And the mom is like, "Well, it looks like my son stole my credit card and decided to leave and get his friend's lunch, hoping that I wouldn't notice." And the manager is obviously on the mom's side, because how could you not be? You know, like, I feel like taking your mom's credit card to buy all your friends food, already not a good move. Going to like a steakhouse to do it? Ah, come on, bro. Like, 100% on the mom's side. It's just wrong to take anyone's money to pay for stuff. It's not yours. It's especially wrong to take your mom's credit card and buy everybody steaks, dude. And the manager tells the mom, which probably he shouldn't have, but he did want her to know, that like, oh, he also had tried to buy a $300 bottle of champagne, but he didn't have an ID. And at that point, this entire group just looks insanely embarrassed. They're all turning red, and the spoiled kid is like, "Mom, stop." And the mom pops off and is like, "Don't you dare tell me to stop. You need my credit card now. I'd be careful about talking back. You have $400 worth of food here and apparently tried to buy a $300 bottle of champagne. Why would you do that? You're not even 21. Like, you knew they were gonna ID you." And at that point, one of the other kids in the friend group is like, "Listen, I'll pay for it. I'll pay for it." Because obviously, everyone else is embarrassed. I'm not sure if they knew this dude had taken his mom's credit card or not. I don't know if they thought that like it was his credit card, but obviously they're getting yelled at in the middle of this restaurant. Everyone's staring. So one of his friends is like, "Listen, I'll pay. Like, I'll pay. It's okay. I'll pay." And the mom's like, "Oh, at least one of your friends has a job. Maybe you should think about getting one of those too. If you had a job, you know, you wouldn't need to steal my credit card." And at that point, everybody's just like cringing watching this situation go down. And the manager decides to tell them like, "Okay, guys, like, come on, please don't yell in the restaurant. You know, you guys have to go." And she's like, "All right, that's fair. That's fair. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make a scene." And he's like, "It's okay, but like, I'm gonna have to ask you guys to go now." And the friend that had offered to pay handed the manager the credit card, so they paid. They didn't leave any tip, which, hey, bro, I feel like after you cause a scene like that, that's the least you could do is leave a tip. But, you know, as long as they were leaving the restaurant, nobody really cared. And so everybody leaves, and all of his friends are gone insanely fast. They all get in their cars and leave. So it's just the mom and the kid outside now kind of talking on their way to the car a little bit. And everybody in the restaurant at that point is still watching them like through the window, right? And the staff starts laughing because it's just like, "Oh man, imagine how embarrassing, bro. Not only did you take your mom's credit card, but she catches you and yells at you in front of everyone. One of your friends has to pay." It's just a funny situation. So the staff is like laughing, right? Well, they're in front of the restaurant and the son turns around and looks through the window and sees everyone staring and the staff laughing, and he yells something. And then his mom looks back and she sees everybody staring and laughing, and so she waves and smiles smiles, and the son starts like running to the car, so she turns and starts to follow him to the car. And so obviously it's a big scene. Everybody gets back to normal, gets all the other customers taken care of, but then everyone's like in the back of the restaurant talking, and everyone's just making fun of the situation, obviously. You know, it's like normal for people in this restaurant to come in acting like they own the place, or acting like they own the place, sorry. You know, oh, I'm so important, look at me, I'm blah 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 blah, I'm a lawyer, I'm da 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 da. Usually, you know, people do that on a daily basis. That being said, it's usually their credit card that they're trying to flex with. It doesn't matter either way, whether it's yours or your mom's, still cringe. But at least they didn't steal their mom's credit card. This dude had really come in acting like he owns the place, bossing everyone around, and then his mom had to come in and destroy his ego because he had taken her credit card, bro. Double embarrassing. You know, he had already taken a large enough L, but somehow, ladies and gentlemen, the L just gets larger because, you know, remember, his mom had called him out for not having a job. Along with not having a job, he had taken his mom's credit card, so to solve a two birds in one stone type of problem, his mom decided she would teach him a lesson by making him go in the next day and show up at the restaurant with his resume to solve the problem of job and embarrassing him so that way he learned to stop stealing her credit card, dude. The subscriber who sent this in to me wasn't there, but the manager was, and he took his resume at the front and was like, oh, well, why do you want a job? And the guy apparently wouldn't look him in the eye, sure douche a lot. He like would not look him in the eye, right? He literally was avoiding eye contact, and he's like, his mom was making him get a job because he needed to learn the value of money, and she had also said that he had to apply here, otherwise she was gonna make him move out. And at that point, the manager literally starts laughing at him because it's just like so cringe, right? He wasn't trying to make him feel bad, but the entire situation was just so absurd. Like, it is a good lesson, you know, but obviously they weren't gonna hire him after that one. I don't think stealing your mom's credit card is the best first impression for a boss, dude. What did you expect him to say? Go ahead and hop on the cash register? You're clearly not afraid of stealing from your mom. There's no way you'd steal from us. Like, I just don't think any manager's gonna hire you after that. Good luck. It is good that he's getting a job. I just don't know if that place is gonna be the place to hire him. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a second chance, but you know, that's like a bank robber just going back and getting a job at the bank, only on a much smaller scale. He's not a bank robber. Now that would be a crazy story time. There's like a bank robber robbing a bank, and his mom comes in and is like, you knock this off, that's my gun you're using to rob this bank. Anyways, obviously, you know, he went ahead and left after that once he was getting laughed at, which was not a bad idea, to be honest. I probably would have done the same, but the manager ends up telling the person who sent this into me on the next shift what went down and just how awkward it was. And everybody to this day still laughs about it at that restaurant, and like, if anybody is kind of being embarrassing or entitled, they call him Metal Credit Card Kid, just because that story is just, you know, a pretty good way of describing how entitled some people be getting sometimes. Overall, I would say if you have a metal credit card, good for you, you got the bands, but it doesn't mean you can just like do whatever you want, bro. Even if it's yours, man, you still can't do whatever you want, but you especially can't do what you want if it's your mom's credit card. Yo, what's up, guys? Yeah, this is my mom's sick credit card. Isn't it pretty dope? Like, oh man, flexing mom's credit card is pretty cringe. I will say though, shout out to the mom for at least doing something about it. Making him go in and apply for a job there the next day is pretty genius, and hopefully dude learned his lesson. I feel like that level of embarrassment, he had to have learned something from it. But yeah, anyways guys, I think that'll do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, please smash the like button, please. Okay, go press it. Okay, I'm desperate for likes out here, dude. And if you made it this far, go ahead and comment metal credit card. It just helps the video do better, and I would appreciate it. And other than that, if you're new, be sure to press that subscribe button. I post videos like this pretty often, so you never want to miss out. So subscribe, turn on notifications, and you know, last but not least, if you want to listen to these story times offline without gameplay, whatever floats your boat, I do post the audio version on Spotify. Link will be down below, so feel free to go check that out. And yeah, on that note, guys, that'll officially do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. Alright, what's up guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. I'm starting to feel a little bit better, but I just want a couple more days to relax and rest, and then I will be back. One more compilation for you guys. You guys have been enjoying them though. Thank you so much. Be sure to press the like button and sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alright, so the person who sent this into me works at a fast food restaurant, which, you know, isn't necessarily their favorite job on the planet, but they get paid to do it, so it is what it is. And everything was going pretty okay until the owner of the
franchise, decided to make his nephew the manager. Pretty nepotistic hire, only hired him because he was his nephew, immediately gave him the manager role when he had never worked there a day in his life. And to top it all off, the nephew himself was a little bit of a douchebag, and by a little bit, I mean a lot of bit. He was insanely controlling. Like, for example, he would tell them to go clean the bathroom, and they would go clean the bathroom, and as they were cleaning the bathroom, he would come in and be like, yeah, I don't like the way you're wiping the mirror clockwise, you need to go counterclockwise. And then he would flick water all over it so they had to clean it again, and be like, I didn't like the way you did that. That level of controlling. He would time everything in terms of like how long they had to go to the bathroom. They could only be in the restroom for 5 minutes at a time any longer, and he would come in and be like, what are you doing? Just a manager who had no idea how to actually effectively be a manager, probably because he had no experience working either. His uncle just decided to hire him as the manager with no experience. I just feel like that's not something I would ever want to do. I'm not saying I would be opposed to like working as a manager, but I would never want to manage anything that I don't know. I've never worked at a fast food restaurant. If I try to tell people how to make a cheeseburger in a timely fashion, it's not gonna go as fast as it probably could because I don't know crap about it. Why would you want a job where you're just immediately a manager with no experience? That just sounds like a recipe for disaster. Either way though, the staff just kind of realized they were gonna have to deal with it because there was no way he was gonna get fired, so most of them just got used to it and dealt with a bunch of the bullcrap rules. Some people quit, but not that many people wanted to quit yet. And there was one coworker in particular that was a super hard worker, and he was kind of like the de facto manager because everyone hated the real manager. Like if he asked somebody to do something, they would do it, no questions asked, because he just worked a lot and everyone respected him, and he never was like, hey, you need to do what I say because da-da-da-da-da. He never did illogical things. And his name was Alec, and he was working an average of 60 hours a week. Now that's 20 hours more than a normal full-time job. And I'm not saying people don't work 60 hours a week. I know probably a lot of people watching this video, you or your parents have had to work that much before, but like, if you can do that consistently, you're a really hard worker. That's impressive. I think working 40 hours a week is like a full schedule. Willingly working basically a full and a half time job is not an easy thing to do. So he was a very hard worker, and because he was working all the time, he was pretty good at running the store. So everyone kind of looked to him as their default leader. And for some reason, one day, Mr. Douchebag is on a mega power trip, and he decides that he's going to change the script for how they're supposed to interact with the customers. Now, there is a script that corporate usually gives them. It's not very good. It's kind of clunky. So up until that point, they were just kind of allowed to say whatever they wanted. And obviously, you couldn't look at the customer and be like, hey, you're ugly, what do you want? You know, but as long as you were polite and respectful, there's really no issue. If someone says hey and another person says hi, it doesn't matter as long as they buy food. But the manager decides that he's going to come up with a new script for how they have to interact with the customers. And it's not a good script at all. The default one was already too long and kind of clunky, but the one that he invented was like a 5-minute dissertation PowerPoint speech that he wanted done this exact way with every single customer. And it wasn't even like it was just long. I mean, it being long is probably a problem. It's called fast food for a reason. I don't want to hear a speech from your workers, no offense. I just like don't need a 1-minute introduction before you even ask me what I want to order. So on top of that though, it didn't flow well. It was like the guy had never written a script before. Like it would open up, what can I get you to drink? And then like specials for 30 minutes and then ask what size they wanted the drink, like just interrupting things. It made no sense. If you actually tried to use what he had wanted them to use and written out on a customer, they would probably think you were having a stroke. Hey, can we just focus on one thing at a time? You're like, no, we cannot. What? How many nuggets do you want? I didn't even ask for nuggets. Okay, so 0 hamburgers plus or minus 8. They're like, what is happening? Just pretend you're having a malfunction, put some firecrackers behind your ears so sparks start flying out of your head. I've gone offline. BurgerBot needs to be rebooted. Anyways, he comes up with this garbage script that it would be very, very annoying to have to use to actually interact with people, and no one wanted to use it, so they didn't use it. They kind of were like, all right, I appreciate that you made this, and then went back to doing what they normally do. And keep in mind, it's not like the store is doing bad. It's always busy. It's always got people in it. They always are breaking their like sales to every other franchise in the area. you know how they kind of compare them? They're always one of the better ones, so there's just no problem at hand. I could understand being a manager to come in and make a bunch of changes if it's like the only unprofitable franchise in the entire country. I get why you would need to change a lot, but if everything's going good, I just don't understand why you would want to come in and rock the boat, especially if you have no experience. Like, oh, okay, this place is making a lot of money, awesome. I'll do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't make as much money. Okay? And his uncle was like, ugh, you're such a brilliant business mind. Anyways, no one was using the script, and it was a pretty busy time in the middle of a rush, so there's just a bunch of people in line, and Alec kind of goes back to muscle memory and starts using what he normally says to people. But the manager is close and hears him not using the script when he's interacting with a customer. And like I said, Alec was unofficial manager, so everyone on shift really respected him. So they weren't too thrilled when the manager walks up to him in the middle of him interacting with the customer and starts yelling at him for not using the script. And I think the script is stupid, but if you're gonna enforce it, if you really want people to use your script, then you still shouldn't go yell at them in front of the customer. It doesn't make you look like a good manager, it makes you look like a jerk, and it doesn't make your employees look good. It makes the customer think that you can't even trust your employees, so why should they? It's just really dumb, especially in the middle of a rush. Like, you're gonna take someone off a cash register to be really mad at them because they didn't use the pre-approved sentences that you liked. This is basically like what corporations become in Borderlands, you know, where they own entire planets. They want to control what you say down to every letter. Off-topic reference, I'm sorry. But the manager just starts going off on Alec. He starts saying that he's a moron. If he doesn't have the brain power to memorize something, he should just say so. He probably doesn't have the brain power to give people change, so he'll keep an eye on it. Just going off on him way meaner than he had to be. Like, listen, if you're the manager, they're not your family, bro. You shouldn't even talk to your family like that, but like, you kind of have to talk to them with some level of respect. But he's just talking to Alec like he's an idiot. And keep in mind, Alec is working 60 hours a week. He's kind of got the store on his back. If the store was Yoda, all right, then Alec is Luke and they're trudging through the swamp because he's just got him on their back. He's carrying it. And Alec isn't too fond of being laid into in front of the customers because who in their right mind would enjoy that? No. Please keep screaming at me in front of everybody. I really enjoy it, especially when it's hundreds of strangers that are hungry and just want their lunch and you're interrupting this. And so douchebag manager says something to the effects of like, you either use my script or there's gonna be consequences. And Alex said, I'm not gonna use your script. And that's all he said. He didn't say, I'm not gonna use your script and then spit in his face and say like, I hope that you are cursed forever. He didn't, shove him. He didn't slap him. There was nothing. He just said, I don't want to use your script. So the douchebag manager just screams in front of everybody once again that he's fired and to get out right now and to never come back, and he'll mail him his last paycheck. There's no reason for him to ever come back into the store. And Alec is kind of flabbergasted because he's never had an issue with the manager before. He works a lot and usually just keeps his mouth shut, and on top of it, he's like, you're gonna fire me when I'm the one working all these hours? Like, all right, dude, fine. But one of the coworkers, not the subscriber, but another one of the coworkers says something to the effect of like, you can't do that, you can't just fire him with no notice in the middle of a rush. And the manager at this point is full on power tripping, dude. If he were on a run, he'd be smacking the floor every 2 feet because he's just tripping. And he turns to the person who said that, who's standing with a group of the other coworkers, and says that like, if any of them have any problem with the way he runs this, they should just keep in mind that he can fire anyone he wants. Which is technically the truth. I guess if you're the manager and you're tight with the owner, you could theoretically fire anyone that you want. But if you're gonna be a good manager, I don't think managing by fear and convincing everybody that they're inches away from losing their job is the best option. Especially when you're going to be taking out your anger and firing the hardest worker. Like, at that point, everybody else who works there is like, ah, crap, dude, I'm screwed. This guy's definitely gonna fire me. If he's so pissed off at the dude working 60 hours a week who never complains, then I'm definitely gonna have an issue with them. But whatever, he can fire whoever he wants. That's the truth. But all the workers at that point kind of realize that it's just a matter of time until he decides to get mad at them, take his anger out on them, and fire them. So they don't want to work for him anymore. If he's willing to fire the best worker that they have on the spot, it's not a place that they would like to work anymore. And it's just not dealing with all the rules, dude, having him time how long you were in the bathroom to see if he thinks you were stealing company time, all this crap, like a new script that he's gonna demand that everybody says. It's just not worth dealing with it. So the subscriber decides that he's going to quit. And he says, all right, well, if you're going to fire him, then I quit. He figures he could always get a job somewhere else at this point, and like, whatever, it's just not worth working with this dude. And the manager yells at him that he can't quit. He's not actually allowed to quit without a 2-week notice. Which is funny. He's allowed to fire people on the spot in front of everybody. That's chill. But if they want to quit, then he would expect a 2-week notice. Isn't it funny how that works? All right, like I can put you in a crappy position. I can give you no job, but you can't put me in a bad position. That's not how this works. And when the coworkers start to hear the manager demanding that they put in their 2 weeks and that they can only quit on his terms, basically, a lot of them decide that they're going to quit. So now there's a group of about 6 people that are quitting, and them and Alec are walking out. And as they're walking out, the manager hops over the counter, does the little like Tom Cruise Mission Impossible slide across the counter, and literally gets between them and the door and starts saying that, you know, they're not allowed to walk out during a shift, and he'll keep Alec on until the end of the shift. He doesn't need to leave right now. Which, listen, dude, if they're already quitting, I don't think the best maneuver is to say you can't leave and then offer the person who you just fired like the rest of the shift. Hey man, listen, I know I fired you and you're gonna have to go find a way to get a new job because you're fired, but I'll let you stay an extra 5 hours to work with me if you want. Like, no one's gonna take that offer. That isn't actually that good of a deal. No offense, I don't care where you work. It's not a reward for me to have to deal with a crappy boss for an extra 6 hours after I've already been fired. But Alec decides to smack him back with the I can fire anyone I want, and he says that they're allowed to quit any job that they want. And the group at that point has swelled to 8 people, and there's only about 10 people working at any given time, not including the manager. So like 80%-ish of the workforce is deciding that they're done and walking out. And the manager is pissed, and he's just going off about how if they walk out this door, they'll never be able to work for this franchise again. Which, listen, I've had bosses use against me before, like, if you quit, you'll never be able to work for this franchise of grocery stores again. And it's like, all right, you know what? I'll take my chances. Oh well, I'll never be able to work for this fast food franchise again. Dang it, it's not like they live in America where fast food franchises are basically our national mascot, dude. We have more fast food places than I think we have any other building. I would love to see a comparison, like if you combined all art centers, all libraries, all schools, and then the amount of McDonald's, how many more times McDonald's would there be? Like, there's probably at a point where we're at a McDonald's for every 10 Americans or something. And that's not where he worked. I'm just talking about how much we love fast food. Like, if he's banned from working there, McDonald's is always an option. It's just not a very scary threat. So the 8 of them end up walking out. And as they're walking out of the parking lot, the other 2 workers that were going to stay walk out. And when they're walking out to the parking lot, the original group is like, oh, why did you decide to quit? You guys were going to stay. And they said that after they left, the manager had turned on them and started screaming at them, saying that they were idiots and da-da-da-da-da, and the entire shift had gone awry and they should have backed him up. And they were like, listen, man, they all just quit. We stayed. Why are you mad at us? Like, we're literally the only people that are still here. You just lost 80% of the people that work here. You're going to scream at us when we stayed? And he had said something about how, like, well, if they wanted to quit, they should just go ahead because he didn't want people there that didn't want to work for him. So they left. I don't think he understands that reverse psychology only works if it's like, I don't know, somewhat logical. Telling them that they should quit when they want to quit is going to make them quit. I just don't understand what he was going for there. If you don't want to be here, then just quit. Okay, well, I quit. I don't want to be here. I don't think people are jumping for joy to be at their job. Like, that's one thing I think bosses never understand. A job is a job. It's not like they're going to be super, super stoked to be here all the time. Under the logic of if you don't want to be here, quit, you're never going to have workers, because who really wants to be at work? Aw, man, I love working a double shift. Like, I don't think people really feel that way. Anyways, they all walked out, they all quit, and he was literally left alone to work the rest of the shift. He probably called in a couple of their coworkers or something, but with how many people were in the store, I'm sure it was not a very fun time. Imagine having like 150 people waiting in your lobby and your entire staff walks out on you in front of them and you're like, no, don't worry, I'll come make all the food. I'm sure he was able to eventually get more workers, but they probably won't last too long and the reviews have tanked on the place. So I have a cousin who's a little bit older than me, I think by like 5-6 years. Not sure exactly, but definitely a little bit older. And he's the baby of his family, to the point where a lot of his siblings are even older, like 10-15 years older than me. You know, they've got kids, they've got family, the whole shebang. And I don't really know too much about the side of his family that like I'm not related to, you know, his mom's side. But I do know that it's a pretty big family with a lot of cousins and nieces and nephews and stuff, and a lot of them are around the age where they really like video games. And obviously, you know, it's not like we talk a ton about it, but he's kind of mentioned that every time he goes home for like a holiday or something, it's just chaos because there's just like dozens of screaming children running all over the place doing what they want. And it tends to be that that side of the family isn't too big on like watching the kids or making sure that they're not getting up to no good. So it just tends to be very stressful. And, you know, he ended up getting back from one of these trips and he goes, bro, I've got to tell you about what happened. You literally won't believe it. One of my, cousins, niece, nephew, I don't really know what the terminology would be. One of the younger kids there ended up breaking his iPad to like try to play Minecraft. And obviously I'm like, wait, what happened? So basically it all starts when he gets there. And immediately, as soon as he walks through the door, a bunch of these kids run up to him and they're like, hey, do you have an iPad? Do you have an iPad? We want to play Minecraft. You know, before they say hi, before they say happy holidays, before they say anything, the first thing out of their mouth is like, can we have your iPad to play Minecraft? And so my cousin is kind of like, well, you know, I need to talk to your mom and like, you know, grandma first before I give you guys anything because like, I don't know if you're supposed to be playing Minecraft. I don't know if you're supposed to be on the iPad, and I'm not trying to get in trouble and let you guys do something that you're not supposed to do. And they're kind of protesting. They're like, no, you don't need to tell them. Just like, if you have an iPad, let us play it. Let us play it. And something about that kind of makes his spidey senses tingle. So he goes up and he's like talking to their mom about it. And he's like, the kids said that I could let them play the iPad on Minecraft. And the mom looks at my cousin and says, listen, under no circumstances are they to play Minecraft. They literally have been like annoying everybody here nonstop to play it. When we say no, they throw temper tantrums. Like, no, they're not allowed to play Minecraft. They can go 2 days without playing a video game. And obviously my cousin is like, all right, fair enough. You know, I'm not trying to break the rules here and like go against what the parents want. So no, you can't play Minecraft on my iPad. And when he tells the kids this, they're obviously not too thrilled. You know, they start being like, you're so lame. When did you become like lame? You suck. And he's like, yeah, whatever, I suck. Yep, you know, I'm the absolute worst. You're really making me want to let you play with my iPad by insulting me, whatever. And at the end of the day, it's kids, so it doesn't really matter. Like, if you tell them no, they're not going to be too thrilled. But, you know, he thinks that's going to be the end of it, that they'll let it be. It's not that big of a deal. And so he kind of goes about spending time with his family, you know, he's just hanging out with them. And when he's hanging out with the family, it's not like he has some radar on his iPad, right? It's not like he's keeping a lookout for it, you know. He just knows that he had set it in his backpack in his room. And so later that night, he was talking to his dad about something and wanted to show him this thing he was working on. And it just so happened that the thing he was working on was on his iPad. Now, you know, my cousin, for whatever reason, hadn't made a backup of this, so, like, if the iPad was missing, he wasn't going to be too thrilled, but he was just going to show his dad, so he goes up to his room, and he starts looking, and he's like, huh, that's weird, my iPad is no longer in my backpack, and that's bizarre, because, I know I left it in my backpack, right? So he, at first, is kind of thinking like, all right, maybe I just misplaced it, I took it somewhere. So he starts tearing apart the room, and his dad comes up because he had been gone for a while, and he's like, hey, what's taking you forever? And he's like, man, I feel insane, but I swear my iPad was in my backpack, and now I don't know where it is. And they're looking, and around that time, you know, the group of kids' mom comes into the room, and she's like, hey, have anyone seen the kids? And at that point, he realizes that not only is his iPad missing, but it's been insanely quiet. You know, usually there's a ton of chaos. It's like the Home Alone house, bro, just absolute chaos, but it's eerily silent. And at that point, he realizes that these kids have 100% taken the iPad to play Minecraft. They had probably just gone into the room, found it in his backpack, and were like, hey, finders keepers, losers weepers, but now they're missing. So they start looking around the house, and they're like, damn, these kids are hiding. And so as they're looking, they start yelling, you know, where are you? Come out now. You know, this isn't funny. Stop pretending like you're hiding. And the kids are
not coming out of hiding, bro. It's like they are committed to keeping this iPad, dude. They're literally going to be hiding until they graduate high school just to make sure that they can watch as much YouTube as humanly possible. And finally, my cousin's dad is like, look, the only place that we haven't checked is the attic. You know, I don't know how they would have gotten in there and like closed the entrance without anyone knowing, but that's got to be where they are. So they pull down the little ladder thing to go into the attic, and they tell my cousin to like go up there and look. And sure enough, he starts coming up the ladder, and as he comes up, he sees the screen kind of reflecting off, and he can see the shadows of everyone watching the iPad. So he yells out like, I see you over there, come back, you guys took my stuff, that's not funny. And he sees like a bunch of eyes turn and look at him, and it's just this group of kids over the iPad, and they're like, we're not giving it back. And he's like, no, you guys, come on, get out of the attic, like this isn't funny. And he's starting to get really annoyed. And at that point, every adult in the house is getting annoyed, because these kids had literally like stolen this iPad, crawled up into the attic, been making everybody look for them for like 40 minutes. And so he kind of starts to be like, look, you guys are gonna get out of the attic in the next 10 seconds, or like, you know, you're gonna be in real trouble. And all of them are kind of like, all right, well then I guess we're gonna get in real trouble, and at least we'll be able to play the iPad. I don't understand if they knew how these negotiations worked, you know, somehow in their mind keeping the iPad and playing Minecraft was an option. Obviously that wasn't gonna be the case. Like even in the best case scenario, bro, you're an incredible negotiator. You kind of lose the ability to keep the iPad once you take it out of their backpack and then proceed to hide and make them search for you for 40 minutes. Like they're probably not gonna let you keep it. But anyways, they're kind of arguing back and forth, and at that point my cousin comes back down the ladder and he's like, they're not gonna come out. And the kid's mom, or at least some of the kid's mom, is like, all right, well let me get up there and try. So she crawls up there and she's yelling at them, and the same thing. They're just not listening. They're like, yo, that sucks. Anyways, we're playing Minecraft, leave us alone. And at that point, the grandpa, you know, my cousin's dad, is like, well, I'm gonna go up there and I'm getting the iPad because I don't want them in the attic. This is getting ridiculous, you know, this is disrespectful. So he goes up there and he walks over to him and he takes the iPad. And instead of them being like, ah, fine, you got us, he starts being like, what are you doing? And my cousin climbs back up the attic ladder, and when he looks, dude, this horde of angry iPad kids is just like swarming his dad and being like, give us it back. And they're literally trying to like wrestle the iPad from their grandpa's hands. And at that point, my cousin goes up the ladder to like help his grandpa from this horde of children that are basically being World War Z zombies trying to like, you know, devour the iPad. And he walks over there and he's like, guys, stop, it's just an iPad. And they're like, we want to play Minecraft. And at that point, I guess his dad decided to let go of the iPad. And when he does, the kid that's like hanging on to the other side doesn't go flying, but kind of like poof out of the group, you know, because there's no more person pulling from the other side. And he gets free with the iPad and he goes, I'm making a break for it. And he starts running to go down the ladder to the attic. I don't really know what the escape plan was once he gets to the ladder, because he's like now just in a house with everyone that knows he has the iPad. But regardless, he's making a break for it. And he gets over to like the attic ladder thing. And at that point, my cousin like is like right behind him and he goes, give me the iPad. And the kid looks back and realizes that my cousin is close enough that he's not gonna get down this attic ladder without getting caught, right? He's got the iPad, he's made it this far, but he's just caught. There's nowhere to go. Even if he goes down the ladder, his mom's waiting right there, like it's done. And at that point, you think they would have given up and just been like, okay, here's the iPad, I'm really sorry for taking it. But I guess in this kid's mind, he's like, well, if I'm not gonna be able to play Minecraft on the iPad, then no one's gonna use the iPad. Because he proceeds to turn, and instead of going down the ladder himself, he decides to send the iPad down instead. And I don't know if this kid had been watching, you know, NFL Network reruns of the best touchdown celebrations of all time, but the dude ends up spiking the iPad like a football, just basically 8 feet straight down onto this hardwood floor, you know? And obviously my cousin sees him throw it, doesn't see the iPad hits the ground, but hears it and is like, are you kidding me? And he hears the kid's mom being like, did you just throw the iPad? And the kid who throws it goes, no, I just dropped it. And he's like, no, you didn't. I watched you throw it. And it was almost like once the kid realized that he had been seen throwing the iPad that he messed up, because he starts being like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break it. And my cousin at that point is just pissed. And he's like, yeah, whatever, dude, you didn't mean to break it. I literally just watched you throw it down the ladder. And so at that point, the grandpa's pissed. He's like, everyone out of the attic now. And the way he says it, everybody just kind of knows he's not kidding. So everyone calmly goes to the ladder and crawls down. And as they get off the attic ladder, he's looking at like the hardwood floor where the kid had thrown the iPad. And the way the kid had thrown the iPad, like the corner of it had just hit the hardwood floor. So there's literally like a chunk out of the hardwood floor plank that he had hit. So that's going to cost money to fix. And on top of it, if you've ever dropped like an Apple device right on the corner with any type of force, you know, that screen's probably going to crack. Now you throw it down a ladder with enough time for it to get some momentum behind it right onto the corner. You can assume what this thing looked like. It was one of those iPads that was the thinner models, and so like the screen's all cracked, and it literally was kind of like bent on that corner where he had thrown it onto the ground. And his dad, the grandpa of all these kids, is not happy. He's like, are you guys kidding me? Look what you did to my floor. Do you have any idea how much money that's gonna cost? You guys think that Minecraft was worth it? Like you're entitled to take other people's technology? And the kids are just kind of sitting there getting yelled at. And, you know, they're like not really apologizing. They're like, well, if you would have just let us play Minecraft, none of this would have happened, is literally kind of what they're saying. And listen, they're young, so it's not like they're the most expert people on the planet. You know, this isn't an adult on trial in front of lawyers. But you would think by now they would have at least recognized that, like, oh, okay, we probably shouldn't have taken his stuff and broken it because now he doesn't have an iPad and that's kind of on us. And my cousin is extremely pissed because he's realizing that, like, this is messing up not only his iPad, like, just breaking something expensive is not fun, but on top of that, like, all of this work stuff, all this stuff he was going to show his dad is on the iPad, and he's not 100% that he's got any backups of it anywhere, which, listen, hey, kind of on my cousin, but at the same time, it's not like he expected his iPad to be taking skydiving lessons when he was at this family reunion thing, you know? That's just not what you're expecting. But whatever, he's kind of like, look, you guys have really set me back on my work, like, do you feel bad at all? And they're like, no, not really. Like I said, you should have given us the iPad and we could play Minecraft. And at that point, my cousin's like, well, guess what? Your mom's gonna buy me a new iPad now. And the mom is like, I am? You know, kind of confused. And he goes, yeah, your kids just broke my iPad, which is what all my work was on. So, like, you're going to get me a new one. And at that point, an entire new argument breaks out. And honestly, I feel like that's kind of fair. Listen, if your kids are going to, like, break this dude's iPad, right? And then not apologize for it and not feel bad, then, like, you know, I think you should have bought him a new iPad either way. But you really know him a new iPad if, like, your kids don't even care that they broke it. But now there's an argument going about, well, why should I have to pay for your iPad? It's your fault that you left it unattended. And he's like, are you kidding me? It was in my backpack in my room. And she's like, yeah, but you know kids are gonna look through your stuff. And he's like, no, I don't. I don't have kids. I didn't realize that I had to put a master lock on my backpack to prevent people from stealing my stuff and breaking it. And at that point, dude, he's like, you know what? I'm getting a hotel. Like, I can't do this. This is ridiculous. And his dad's like, listen, I'll buy you an iPad. And he goes, no, Dad, like, I don't want you to buy the iPad. I want her to buy the iPad, or the kids to buy the iPad. Like, you know, don't bail this out. Like, no, this is ridiculous. So whatever, my cousin goes, gets a hotel room, and the entire time he's getting texts from, you know, his sister being like, oh, well, why didn't you, you know, just forgive them? Like, I shouldn't have to buy you a new iPad. And he's like, look, I'm not mad at the kids. Like, I'm really not. I just feel like I need this iPad to work. He was kind of using it as a laptop, like a 2-in-1 type of thing. He's like, I need it to work. It's broken, and like your kids broke it. You know, I'm not angry at them. It's broken. It's too late now, but like, yeah, you've got to buy me a new one. And finally, after arguing, him getting a hotel room, being gone for a day, his sister's like, whatever, I'll buy you a new iPad. But the entire time they were like going to get the iPad, she kept making remarks about how like this is insanely petty and he should have just been fine with like getting one himself. And listen, you know, sure, do I agree that like leaving, storming out, and threatening not to come back until you get an iPad is the greatest decision? No, but at the same time, like, your kids destroyed his stuff. You kind of do gotta replace it. I just don't really understand how you're not responsible for it. You know, sure, did you tell them go steal things? No, but like, your kid spiked the iPad down and like destroyed the hardwood floor. The least you gotta do at that point is replace what was broken. Anyways, he gets his replacement iPad. Everything's all good, but he's guarding it. You know, he's not letting it out of his sight. And what was really funny is like when they get back with the iPad and he's setting it all up. He did lose his work, by by the way. That to me is also why it's like, all right, you got to get him it. Because if you ruin his work, it's like, obviously should have saved it to the cloud, should have saved it somewhere, that's kind of dumb. But at the same time, he's kind of reworking everything, trying to get as much as he can back. And the entire time he's doing it, his cousins keep coming up to him being like, can I play the iPad? And by the third time he asked, he looked at him and he's like, let me get this straight. You guys destroyed my last one and you think I'm gonna let you play with this one? And even the little kids were kind of like, all right, yeah, fair enough when you say it that way. Back when I was really young, this spoiled kid ended up stealing my Game Boy and I was not too thrilled with it. So I figured since I'm doing the shorter stories this month, I would tell it to y'all because I think you're going to enjoy it. So without further ado, let's go, baby. Don't steal someone's Game Boy. Alright, so this story doesn't take place in school, but something very similar. My parents had to work when I was younger, so like during the summer, sometimes I would have to go to this like a rec center and hang out with kids there. And honestly, I was not the biggest fan of it, okay? I've always kind of liked to just kind of chill, do my own thing, play some Pokemon, play some video games. So just being in a situation where I was forced to like, do stuff I didn't want to do with people I didn't necessarily know was never something I was hyped about. And because of that, my parents were kind of like, well, you can take your Game Boy, that's fine, you just can't be alone. I was too young for that. So I was like, all right, bet, I'll take my Game Boy, I'll just kind of be able to do what I want to do, play Pokemon Fire Red, and everyone's gonna leave me alone. The only issue was, obviously, I didn't think this through too far, is that everybody that didn't have a Game Boy that was there, like liked Pokemon, was constantly bugging me to like play my Game Boy, play Pokemon. And listen, I understand that that's what's gonna happen, I'm the idiot that brought the Game Boy here, obviously people were gonna want to watch me play and borrow it. But because it was my Game Boy, and at the time it was basically my most prized possession to ever exist, there was no way I was about to let anybody just play it, especially on Pokemon. Are you kidding me? The last thing I need is one of you guys to teach my Blastoise and HM I can't make it forget. The last thing I want is you guys wasting my Master Ball on something dumb. So no, I wasn't really down to let people play my Game Boy. And a lot of the people didn't like that I wasn't letting people play my Game Boy, which listen, I'm sure it was annoying from their perspective, but at the same time, I don't gotta let you just like play with my stuff. And there was this one kid that was super entitled that I'm gonna name Kevin for the rest of the story. And Kevin was probably the most persistent about insisting that I let him play my Game Boy. And he would say stuff like, well, I have a Game Boy at my house, so I know how to use it. I won't break it. And my reply would be like, well, then you should bring your Game Boy, bro. He would argue with me about everything I'm doing while like people would watch me play was wrong. And overall, I just really didn't want Kevin to play my Game Boy. I didn't want anyone to touch it, but if you're gonna be sitting there critiquing me while you're watching me play, I really don't want to let you borrow it. But sure enough, one time I had to go to the bathroom and one of my friends that I had gotten to know was asking if he could play the Game Boy while I went to the bathroom. And I literally didn't want to let anyone use it, but at the same time, I didn't want to take it to the bathroom, so I was like, fine, you can play, but don't use my Master Ball, don't teach my Pokemon any moves, and whatever you do, do not let anyone else play this Game Boy. I will be right back. Do not let anyone else touch it. That was kind of what I said before I left. And I wasn't trying to guard this thing like it was some rare golden treasure. I was just young and it was my Game Boy, dude. Like this thing was just my prized possession. So whatever, I go to the bathroom and I'm gone for maybe 3-4 minutes and I come back out and I walk up to my friend and I go, hey, can I have my Game Boy back? And he goes, oh, I gave it to Kevin. And I'm like, what do you mean you gave it to Kevin, bro? I told you not to give it to anyone. Where's my Game Boy? And he's like, no, Kevin said that it was cool if he played it. You told him it was okay because he saw you in the bathroom. And I'm like, I never told Kevin he's allowed to play my Game Boy. He had seen me walked away and walked up to this dude and been like, Ryan said it's cool if I play it. So sure enough, my friend, not knowing any better, had just kind of given it to him. And at that point, I'm pissed. Like, I'm annoyed with my friend, but I'm more annoyed that Kevin has my Game Boy. And I'm especially annoyed because I start looking around to try to find him and get it back, and homie has just vanished off the face of the earth. It's like he had stolen my Game Boy, gotten the invisibility cloak from Harry Potter, and then teleported to another dimension to make sure that I was never going to be able to track him down. I'm like running around this rec center, dude. I'm looking in classrooms or like, the rooms that they have there. I'm looking in different groups. I'm searching for him, and I literally cannot find Kevin or my Game Boy literally anywhere. And listen, I was not trying to have to snitch in this situation, but after spending 15 minutes
minutes looking and not being able to find Kevin or my Game Boy, I was starting to get worried that he had like stolen it and gone home, you know? So at that point, I finally decided to tell one of the workers there. And the workers were just like older teenage kids. It's not like they were, you know, some boomers or anything. So I walked up to the one that I trusted the most, which was an older guy, and I was like, hey, this kid stole my Game Boy. And the reason I was telling this particular worker is me and him had talked about Pokemon before, so I knew if anyone was gonna understand why I was so upset about it being missing, it was gonna be him. And he's like, okay, well, did you tell him he could play it? And I'm like, no. And he goes, all right, well, what game do you have? And I was like, Pokemon. And he's like, all right, well, you know, let's see if we can find him. So I start walking around with this worker, and he's looking for Kevin, and he's asking his coworkers, and everyone's like, yeah, Kevin just went out onto the playground, da-da-da-da-da. So we go out there, and he goes, Kevin! And sure enough, here comes Kevin. He has a Game Boy in his hand. The only problem is my Game Boy was like, I don't know what the color is, like that light blue metally looking one. And on the front of the Game Boy now is just a bunch of stickers. Like it was almost like he had taken it outside and covered it in like just random stickers so you couldn't see the color of it anymore. And I go, what'd you do to my Game Boy? And he goes, this Game Boy? This isn't yours. This is mine. I brought it from home. See, look at the stickers. And the worker is confused, and he looks at me and I look at him and I go, that's my Game Boy. That is 100% my Game Boy. He stole it. And, you know, the worker is like, okay, well, is there any way that you can prove this is your Game Boy? Because he's saying it's his, and now it's a he said. And I'm like, listen, dude, that's my Game Boy. You know, I'm a little kid, so I'm not doing the best job of explaining it, but I'm like, that's my Game Boy. He put stickers on it, and he's trying to steal it. And Kevin's just denying it. He's like, it's not my Game Boy. I absolutely did not steal your Game Boy. I brought this one from home. And we're going back and forth. And thankfully, this worker had played Pokemon before, because otherwise, I probably would have been out of luck. Because he's just demanding that it's his, you know, he brought it from home. And finally the worker's like, okay, well, if this is your Game Boy, Kevin, and it really is yours, then like I should be able to take it from you, and you should be able to tell me the Pokemon's names and like what Pokemon you have, right? And Kevin, you know, kind of realizes like, uh-oh, okay, yeah, I really can't say no to this because otherwise it's weird. But at the same time, there's no clue he actually knows what's going on because it's not like it's his Game Boy or his game. So he kind of tries to deny it. He's like, no, that's not how this works. I don't even want you to check to see if it's my Game Boy. And the worker's like, well, listen, either we're gonna have to figure it out right now, or I'm gonna take you guys both up to the very front and you're gonna talk to the person in charge of the program because this is serious. Like, I don't want to be in trouble for someone getting their Game Boy stolen. And reluctantly, Kevin hands over the Game Boy, right? Sure enough, he turns it on, goes to Pokemon Fire Red, and he goes, okay, Kevin, what is your main Pokemon? And Kevin, you know, there's really 3 options that you could have. This Pokemon game, you can either have Blastoise, Charizard, or Venusaur as your starter. I know that's nerdy, okay, I still remember this. And for some reason, Kevin must have just been so focused on putting the stickers on the Game Boy that he didn't remember what I had, which is weird because the dude had been criticizing my gameplay all day, bro. He was like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, wrong move. But for some reason, he, in that moment, thank the grace of Grayskull, decided to say that I had a Charizard. And that's when I knew I had him, ladies and gentlemen, on the ropes, cause nay. I don't dislike Charmander, but I always picked Squirtle as my starter, okay? So instantly, I look at the worker and I go, that's not true, it's a Blastoise and it's named, and I said my Pokemon's name. And at that point, the worker could really tell that like, okay, this is my Game Boy, this is my game. And he says, Kevin, do you have any explanation as to why you don't know what Pokemon you have and it's your Game Boy? And at that point, Kevin just started coming clean. He's like, fine, I stole the Game Boy, fine, I took it, I wanted to put stickers on it because I don't have one. Yeah, he had been telling me he had a Game Boy, but nay, I say, nay. And at that point, the worker's like, all right, Kevin, we'll give him back the Game Boy. So I get my Game Boy back, and then he's like, Kevin, we're gonna go to the front office, like, you're probably gonna get expelled from the program. And at that point, little kid me is like, whoa, I don't want that to happen, you know, I got my Game Boy back, like, I don't care, you don't have to take him to the office. And the worker looks at me and he's like, I don't? You're not mad? And I go, no, as long as I got my Game Boy back, that's really what I was worried about. Like, I don't want the guy to get in any trouble, which, you know, obviously, like, I guess he did steal my Game Boy, but at the same time, I got it back relatively quickly, and like, I didn't want to be responsible for this kid getting kicked out of this program. So the worker looks at me and he's like, I'm really supposed to report stuff like this. And he looks at me and Kevin and he's like, but if you guys are saying that it's okay and you can take care of this issue amongst yourselves, I'm not going to complain because it's way less paperwork for me. And I didn't really understand what paperwork was, but but I was like, yeah, if you're cool with us being cool with it, it's all right. And immediately I could see Kevin get relieved a little bit, and he was like, thanks, man. And I was like, yeah, just don't take my Game Boy. Like, that's really what I cared about. Little kid me did not care about this kid getting in trouble at all. As long as I had my Pokemon back in my hand, that's all that mattered to me. And the worker, obviously, just being like this kid worker who didn't actually want to do any work, was fine with it too. So sure enough, Kevin and I just kind of shook hands and agreed that, like, all right, it's all settled. Don't touch my Game Boy again. And honestly, after that, he was a lot better, bro. Like, homie was no longer staring over my shoulder, calling me a moron. He would tell me where, like, some stuff was, so that way I could go find it because his older brother would play. And overall, me and Kevin actually did end up becoming somewhat friends, Don't get it twisted. I still didn't let him borrow my Game Boy, and, like, I wasn't going to leave it unattended around him. But, I wasn't either, like, I didn't hate his guts and want him to, like, get kicked out of the program either. But overall, my number one priority in that exact moment was just getting my Game Boy back. Once I had it back in my hands, I really could have cared less about what happened. Either way, though, the worker went on his way. We went back and just kind of kept playing Pokemon. Thankfully, though, a couple kids other than Kevin ended up bringing their Game Boys whenever I would be there after. So we would also be able to, like, battle and trade and whatnot. And overall, it was a pretty good time, but I just figured you guys would enjoy the story of the time this spoiled kid stole my Game Boy.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a pretty funny story time that was sent in to me about this kid that was trying to flex on everybody with all this money, only to get exposed for most of the money being fake. I just thought it was a pretty funny situation y'all would find entertaining. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. Alright, so the person who sent this in to me is in college, which is usually when the cringe stuff is supposed to stop. I understand that, like, most people in middle school, high school want to look cool, they want to fit in, so whatever, people might exaggerate, post a picture with their mom's money. It's still cringe. I'm not saying it's not cringe, but it's a little bit more understandable. If you're still fake flexing on everybody when you're in college, that's when it hits the point of, like, insanely cringe. At least in my opinion. You're supposed to be figuring it out for real right now. You're not supposed to be trying to convince people that your fake Yeezys are real. But, this person was in a class with a guy who constantly was bragging about how he made all this money, and he didn't really have to care or try in school because he was already rich. Which, I mean, if that's true, good for you. If you don't have to go to college, congratulations. But if you're really as rich as you say you are, then sitting in college also seems like a giant waste of time. I'm just saying, and everyone would just get annoyed because he would flex for no reason. Obviously, I don't think there's many good reasons to be flexing on a bunch of strangers, but it wasn't as if randomly the conversation of how much money everybody had was brought up, and then everybody started talking about how much money they had, and he just naturally said it. They would be, like, talking about something in history class. So George Washington crossing the Delaware or whatever. Yo, Delaware's his bag, though. I got a lot of money. Like, that type of stuff. That's kind of good one. Delaware's his bag. I'm patting myself on the back. He was just constantly bringing it up, and it was really, really obnoxious. And one of the things that he would do to prove how rich he is he would open his backpack and, like, flash cash. And he would have stacks of money in his backpack, and he claimed he always had 100 grand in his backpack, which I've never understood, because I feel like everybody that actually has 100 grand in a backpack money, like anyone who actually it just makes sense to keep 100 grand on them, wouldn't keep it in a backpack. And also, if you have 100 grand in your backpack, it seems really, really dumb, in my opinion, to tell everyone that you have 100 grand in your backpack. You might as well just stick a piece of paper on your back, tape on it that says, "Don't rob me, but if you do, I have 100 grand. Like, you're just putting a target on yourself. I'm not saying I would rob you, bro. I'm not gonna rob anyone. That being said, if you keep running around going, "I have $100,000 in my backpack," you can't be surprised Pikachu when someone tries to take your backpack. That's probably one of those things you want to keep to yourself. I don't know. I feel like there's no reason to also carry that much cash in a backpack. What do you buy a car for lunch every day? Give me 3 reasons you would ever need that much cash in a backpack. But he would also never let anyone get a very good look at the stack of money, which the subscriber thought was a little weird, He would always just open the backpack and you would see $100 bill with a rubber band around it and like a stack of money, but you could never really see if the stack of money was all $100 bills, if it was a bunch of ones, whatever. Anyways, he would do this pretty often and everyone just started to get fed up with it and annoyed, and like whenever he would bring it up and try to be talking about how much money he has,
everyone would just kind of roll their eyes and be like, we get it, man, you have a lot of money. And that's when he started to get a little bit more brazen with how he would like flash these stacks of cash. It was almost as if he could tell people weren't as impressed with it anymore, but he wasn't smart enough to figure out like the last 10%, which was why they weren't impressed, which was no one cares. Instead, he was just like, oh, they've gotten used to how I flex now, so I just need to become more obnoxious with how I flash my money, because if I just flash my money more obnoxiously, then they'll think it's really cool again. I'm not sure why that's the conclusion he came to, but he started saying that he now had $250,000 in cash with him at all times. Once again, don't know why you would really advertise that, but he would open his backpack, and now the money in the backpack was kind of coming out of the backpack, and sure enough, it was the top was a $100 bill, and there was a rubber band around it, and it wasn't that the person who sent this to me was trying to prove that the guy was using fake money, but when he would show the stacks, it was just very obvious that like the paper underneath that $100 bill looked a little bit different. And one day he pointed it out to him, and the guy got insanely defensive. He was like, hey man, why does all the paper in that stack look different? And he starts going off about how obviously the subscriber is broke and has never held a lot of money in his life because $1 bills look different than $100 bills, and he's a moron, and you know, money looks different. These aren't all $100 bills. He has some 20s and 10s in there. And apparently the government uses different paper for each one to distinguish them and make it impossible to fake it, which is just not true. There are some differences between the dollars, but the government isn't using like different paper for each one to the point where it looks different. Yes, does a $100 bill look different than a $1 bill? Yeah, it has a little bit more anti-counterfeit measures, but you guys get what I'm saying. If you put like a $10 bill and a $1 bill on top of each other and then show it to somebody where they can't see and say which one's which, they're not going to be able to tell. And it was just weird how defensive he got. Like, if it actually was real money, you think the thing you would do in that situation is take the rubber band off and show them it's real money. You know, I just wouldn't be carrying a bunch of cash in my backpack anyways, and I definitely wouldn't be telling everyone that I have a bunch of cash in my backpack. I don't know why you would want everyone to know that you've got all this money on you. I've said that enough, but it just blows my mind you would want to tell people that you have a lot of cash on you. And so the guy was like, all right, bro, all right, like, relax. He got insanely mad, but he just wouldn't let it go. He's like, you're an idiot. You clearly have never been around a lot of money. You have no idea what's going on. And little did he know, the subscriber worked for an armored car company that would go and take cash deliveries. So not only did he kind of have a good idea of what money looked like, but the fact that he's calling him a moron who must have never been around money before when it was literally part of this guy's job to be taking like hundreds of thousands of dollars from different locations to the place where they drop it off. He just thought it was funny. And so he's like, all right, man, all right, my bad. Once again, trying to drop it. But the guy from that point on really didn't like him. And he just kind of was going to let it slide. He was never going to call him out and try to expose him in front of everybody. But from then on, every time this guy would flex, he would make it a point to be like, I know that guy's really jealous because he's broke. And point at him and try to be like, yeah, see, he's dumb and broke and da-da-da-da-da, and that's why he's such a hater. And it got to the point where he was just kind of waiting for the chance to make him look stupid and point out that there was a pretty good chance that this money was fake. And finally, he got the opportunity when one day there was a situation in class where the teacher had brought up something about how like government debt, da-da-da-da-da, and this guy starts talking about, you know, he could probably get the government out of debt because he's so rich. And I think that makes me know that this guy's never been around money before, bro, because even if you are like rich, let's say hypothetically you're a multimillionaire, you're in the top 1%, you're doing well. We're like $17 trillion in debt, bro. I don't really think that, like, even if you are rich, you're going to be able to do a whole lot. Kudos to you if you want to go ahead and eliminate the national debt. I'm sure the country will be very grateful, but chances are you're not that rich. And he takes out his money, and he's holding 2 big bricks of money in his hands, and he's holding them up to his ears like it's a telephone. And he starts pretending that he's having a call with the president saying, yeah, do you need my money? Which I'm not going to lie is kind of funny.
funny. Like, oh, hello, Mr. President, do you need my money? But this time the teacher goes, okay, put it down, like this is not what class is about. And he stands up and tries to get mouthy with the teacher about, you think you can tell me what to do with all these bands? Which, yes, even if you are rich, I think the teacher is in charge of the classroom. I don't think that magically changes anything. The teacher's just gonna look at him. Ah, bro, you're right. Forget my class that you're paying money for. You have a lot of money. But when he does it, he like hits his knee on the desk when he pops up, and the money plops out of his hand. And it's such a big brick of money that there's a few different like rubber bands around it, and then a bigger rubber band with the rubber banded money. Well, the big rubber band pops, and when that happens, they kind of fling everywhere. And everyone's watching this happen, and he immediately screams, "No one touch my money!" But the subscriber just puts his foot on like one of the small stacks and slides it under his desk. And he's not going to steal it. I want to make that clear. He made it very clear that if it was really would have 100% given it back to him, said he missed one, but he just wanted to look. He was just curious. And so the guy picks them all up and he's counting, and he clearly doesn't know how much money was like in his hands because he says, okay, that's all of it. He doesn't even notice that there's one missing. And he sits back down and the teacher gives him a little bit of a talking to, or the professor, excuse me, being like, you know, this is college. This isn't high school anymore. No one cares about your money, da-da-da-da-da. And he's just kind of acting all arrogant, like, yeah, people who don't have money say they don't care about money, just like being annoying. Listen, I'm not saying money isn't cool. Like, money can buy cool things. Trust me, I would rather drive a Lamborghini than a Toyota if I have the choice. I would rather have, you know, an iPhone than a flip phone. Like, there are certain things that money is cool for, but to say that it's like the only thing that matters, or that it gives you special privileges to just interrupt a class, is pretty stupid. Anyways, while they're going back and forth, the kid who's trying to flex isn't paying attention, and so he takes it and he like unbands the first $100 bill off, and he takes it off, and sure enough, he starts looking. And the money underneath the $100 bill in this stack has like the motion picture use, not real money written on it. And immediately he starts laughing. And it's while this guy's arguing with the teacher. And the guy looks over and is like, what's so funny, bro? And that's when he sees on the desk that the guy has a stack of the money and the $100 bill is off. And immediately he just starts freaking out. That guy's trying to steal my money, man. Why do you think it's funny to be touching my money? I don't think it's funny that your hands are on my money. It's kind of funny his hands are on your money, bro. And you're starting to sound like Dr. Seuss. But whatever, he starts freaking out, trying to insinuate that this guy's trying to rob him. So the subscriber takes this chance to show everybody the truth, and he stands up and goes, you know how this guy's been flexing this money, saying that he doesn't need to care about school, da-da-da-da-da. I don't know if he's counted it or not, but apparently the only thing it's good for is shopping if you live in a movie. And he shows everybody that it says motion pictures made in America, blah, 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 whatever. And everybody starts laughing, being like, dude, it's fake money. And now he's pissed and he's screaming, give me my money back, give me my money back. And he starts running over and trying to take it out of the subscriber's hands. And the subscriber, once again, was not trying to flex too hard. He just got blessed genetically. Happens to be insanely tall. Like, I'm talking above 6'5", which is just insanely tall. And the guy who was always flexing the money was probably about 5'8", 5'9", like standard size. And so he just lifts his arm straight up into the air with this fake money in it and goes, look at the fake money, look at the fake money. And he's laughing. Meanwhile, the guy that just got exposed for flexing the fake money is literally got his hand straight up, jumping, like trying to grab the money out of his hands, like, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Except he's mad while he's doing it. And he's like, give it to me now. And everyone's laughing. And finally, the professor is like, that's enough. Give it back to him. And so the subscriber, not wanting to disrespect the teacher, is like, all right, I'll give it back to him. So he hands it to him. And the kid's like, that is not funny. You tried to steal my money. And he's like, bro, we all saw that it's fake money. Like, come on. We all know all the money in the backpack is fake. And he's like, no, it's not fake. This is the fake money. And I use the fake money when I pull it out of my backpack. But there is real money in the backpack. And at that point, even the professor has had enough. And he's like, okay, well then prove the money in your backpack's real, because we're all tired of this. And I don't really know if that's against the rules. I don't know if they're allowed to do that. But either way, if I was in his shoes, I'd want to do the same too. Like, this has interrupted my class enough. Either put up or shut up. You're either rich or you're not. You got to prove it or like never bring it up again, dude. And even if you are rich, no one cares, man. I swear, dude. Like, I don't care if you're worth $1 billion. I don't care if you're worth $30. If you suck, you suck. Like, it just is what it is. You can be rich, bro. You can't buy a different personality. That's the reality of of the situation. I actually have $8 million, but I also hate the sound of fun. Like, okay, who cares? But he gets pissed off with the teacher and is like, I don't have to prove anything to you. You have no authority over me, so I don't have to do anything. And the teacher's like, you're right, you don't have to prove it, but if you're not going to prove it, then I don't want to hear about it in my class anymore. And the guy's like, you know what? I don't have to listen to this stuff. I don't even have to be at this school. I've got the money. Like, I don't even need to be here. And he grabs his backpack full of the fake money and starts walking out the door. And on the way out, someone in the class just yells out like, we all know it's fake, bro. And everybody starts laughing because, let's be honest, everyone in this class knows it's fake now. In his mind, he's like, all right, if I storm out of here, everyone will think that I'm actually super pissed off. And maybe a few of them will still think that I'm like super wealthy. But everyone in the class already didn't believe him because he was just constantly carrying around a backpack with $250,000 in it. Woo, that's such a smart idea. But he's storming out, and now he's just embarrassed because I think he probably realized that no one believed him in the first place. But he turned around and said that everyone in this class was haters and they were really gonna regret talking to him like that when they saw him on TV one day, and how, you know, they just underestimated the skills of him at a young age. And listen, bro, for your sake, I hope you end up on TV. You're gonna be the richest, most famous dude ever. But even if you're on TV one day, are you really gonna sit there and tell whoever's interviewing you, yeah, I actually used to love to go places with a backpack full of fake money and flex on everyone? Like, either way, that still was what you were doing. Sorry. Like, even if one day you're really successful, the cringe is still there. And everyone's done cringe things. I'm not saying it like makes you irredeemable forever. It's just kind of a weird thing to say when you also are still cringe in this situation. I also love him being like, I'm so rich, I don't need this. I don't need to be at college at all. This is all dumb. And they're like, why are you doing this? College isn't cheap. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're in a college class, but you don't have to do it. You just want to do it. I've heard of people going back to college if they have a super successful business or something. I'm never going to hate anyone for getting educated, but I also feel like those people wouldn't be rolling around saying they don't care about it. Because why are you paying for it if you don't care? Like, college just is a little too expensive to just be doing willy-nilly if you don't want to be there. I don't know. Maybe he really is just the richest person on the planet. He gets $100 every time he tells someone he's rich. That's why he's doing it all the time or something. Either way, he leaves. And you think he would never have the balls to come back to that class. Like, I feel like if you have a freak out like this, your only option is to just move to a different country, change your names, wear a fake mustache everywhere you go. And I'd prefer it if you change your name to something funny. If you are going to go with a fake alias, you might as well go as funny as possible. It's an alias you're going to have to use for the rest of your life. So you got to do something silly like super rich boy. Richie Rich? Aw, for him, because he's so embarrassed, he probably would not want to relive it. Maybe you shouldn't be allowed to pick your secret identity. That kind of defeats the whole purpose, but I think it'd be funnier if it's like something that makes you ashamed of what you're changing your name for. Anyways, the next class, there's someone in class that apparently is not the kid who used to bring the backpack full of fake money, but there's someone who looks just like him in a hat and sunglasses in the class, and he's just ignoring everyone that says that guy's name. And then someone's like, who are you? And he goes, oh, I'm new, I just transferred in. The guy is like pretending to be in a disguise and be someone different. And whatever, after that, everyone just dropped it, mainly because they didn't want to argue with this crazy dude. So they just let it slide. He was in the class, but the next time the class comes around, he walks in without the disguise on, so everyone's going to know it's him. And everyone's sitting there and da-da-da-da-da. The teacher leaves for a second to go do something. And somebody decides to like mess with him a little bit and goes, where were you last class? We missed you. Thinking he would be a little embarrassed or something because he came in a disguise. But instead, the guy just looks at him and goes, what are you talking about? And the person who asked him just kind of asks him again, like, well, where were you last week? You were supposed to be in class and you weren't here. We missed you. And the guy, straight-faced, goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never met you guys before. And they're like, dude, come on. We've literally been in class this entire year together. And he says that it's the first day that he's been in this class because he just transferred to this college. And everyone in the class is really confused because this is 100% the guy that used to fake flex the money, whatever. I'm trying to talk in English here. But they know it's him, but he's just denying that he's ever met them before and saying he just transferred in. So they ask him, well, what about last week with the money? And he looks at them confused and is like, what do you mean a couple weeks ago with the money? What do you mean last week with the money? And they're like, yeah, you used to
carry this backpack of cash with you and it ended up being fake. And he's just looking like none of this has ever been presented to him before, as if he really has no clue what's going on. He's genuinely seeming confused. And he's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never done that. And somebody calls him out at that point, and they're like, dude, come on, we know it's you. You can't gaslight us into thinking that didn't happen. And he goes, no, I'm not trying to gaslight you. You probably just have me confused because I have a twin brother. And everyone's like, what? And he says, yes, I transferred here. My evil twin brother transferred to my school. He's a big jerk, super arrogant. He actually carries a backpack of fake money. I think that's what you're talking about. And everyone's looking at this guy like he can't actually think that we're stupid enough to believe this, right? It's one thing to come in a disguise. You're already insulting your classmates' intelligence if you think that, like, you can do the good old Captain America disguise, put on a hat and sunglasses, and everyone is just magically, oh, who is that? Goodness gracious. Can I just talk about that for a second, bro? I can't remember which Marvel movie, but there's one where Captain America, the super soldier who's like 6'7", 300 pounds of pure muscle, is walking around and no one recognizes him because he has a baseball hat on. Like, all right, man, I don't know how realistic that is. Apparently this guy watched that movie and thought that was the greatest idea ever. But when that didn't work, he just decided to go the whole evil twin route. But he's really sticking to it. And he's like, no, I have an evil twin who, is really arrogant and we switched colleges. And everyone just tells him straight up, like, we don't believe you. We know it's you. Come on. Like, how dumb do you think we are? But he doubles down and is like, I don't think you guys are dumb. Trust me. I'm so sorry if my brother did anything to upset you or make you guys feel bad, but I'm not my twin. And listen, like, it doesn't matter how hard you're gonna pretend that you are a different person. Everyone knows it's you. Because you would think if this guy's always flexing, he would have mentioned his twin at some point. That's something to flex. Seriously, though, like, it was just obvious that he was pretending. But whatever, the teacher walks in and he goes, oh, nice to meet you, sir, and tries to introduce himself, and the teacher is confused. So the class catches him up to date. Apparently, he just transferred in here because his evil twin switched colleges with him, and his evil twin is the one who flexed the money. And the professor is like, well, that's weird because I don't have any new names on my roster, and I'm pretty sure the computer system would have put you on here. But your evil twin brother's name is still here. And he gets this weird look on his face. And you would think that, like, all right, he's getting a weird look. The teacher's saying his name's not on the roster. He's going to have to come clean. There's no way he's going to commit to just pretending to be his imaginary twin brother much longer. But he looks at the teacher and is like, wow, that's weird. It sure is bizarre. Maybe it'll get patched before the next class. Just make sure you mark down that I was here. And he goes and he sits down. And for the rest of the class, he keeps up the act that he has an evil twin brother and he has no clue what anyone is talking about, which is nuts. But I have to give him credit for the follow through because it's not just that class. Everyone would mess with him every class, but for the rest of the year, he just said that he was not that guy and he was his twin and he didn't know why everyone was so insistent that it was not him. And to give even more proof that it just wasn't his twin brother, because I know someone's going to be like, what if it was his twin brother? The other guy kept posting on social media from this college, and they could never find his brother's account. Which, I mean, if you're going to commit to pretending to be your twin brother, at least make the fake Instagram for it. But whatever, it was very evident to everyone. It was just the pure shame of it that probably made him commit to just pretending to be his twin. After all the dumb stuff he said and the fake money, he probably was just like, I have to change my name. Anyways, guys, I just thought this story was hilarious. I thought you guys would enjoy it. If you did, I would really appreciate y'all taking a second to press the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on those notifications. It really helps the video do better, and I would appreciate it. And if you like the story times, but you don't like the gameplay, you want to listen offline, I do post the audio versions over on Spotify. Feel free to go check that out. Link down below. And there's also going to be a link to a playlist I made for here on YouTube with some of my favorite story times of the year. So if you need something to listen to while you're gaming, doing chores, whatever, feel free to check that out. Link down below as well. On that note, I'm going to go buy a bunch of fake money, fill up a backpack with it, run onto a bus screaming, I'm just the Monopoly man, and then throw the fake money in the air and run off before everyone realizes it's fake. Ha 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 ha, get trolled. And if anyone does catch me, I'll just say, no, that was my evil twin brother. He opened up a wormhole and switched places with me, and everyone's obligated to believe it. On that note, though, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. Wow, you made it to the end of the video. You know what? You deserve at least $80 billion. I'm not gonna give it to you, but you can go get it. Now watch another video if you want.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I have a story time that's definitely different than anything I've ever had sent in to me before. Apparently this guy's neighborhood was being terrorized by a group of kids on bicycles who would act like pirates and rob everybody else. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how you get that idea. Watching a little bit too much Pirates of the Caribbean or something. Oh, if we just pretend to be Jack Sparrow, we can rob everyone. And he always gets away with it, so we will too. Either way, I just thought it was a pretty crazy story time that you guys would enjoy. So without further ado, let's hop right into it, grab some popcorn, and let's go. Alright, so the person who sent this in to me is a lot older now, but at the time was probably around like 10 years old. And he had just moved into this new neighborhood that he thought was really cool because it was one of those neighborhoods where people's yards are like kind of big, like an acre or 2 acre lots. So you still have like friends in the neighborhood you can play with, but you can also still have a tree house and some woods in your backyard. And he thought it was sick, but what he didn't know is that there was a group of kids in the neighborhood who really sucked. And he found out about it while riding his bike one day. He had like a cheap MP3 player his parents had bought him with like just some cheap headphones. You know, one that can hold like 15 songs. And he was riding around on his bike and he comes around the corner and he sees like 4 kids on bikes with some wooden swords, and like a few of them are wearing eye patches and bandanas, and he just thinks to himself, oh, these kids are playing pirate. And so he goes to ride past them, but he rides past them and he instantly gets this weird feeling and he turns around and he sees them following him. And so he turns down his music, but like doesn't let them know that. He doesn't take his headphones out, which was pretty quick thinking, I'll be honest. And he kind of hears them talking about how they're going to take his iPod, they're going to take it from him, blah, 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 blah. So he starts riding his bike even faster, and they start riding faster and start yelling at him to stop. So he starts trying to get back to his house, but they had been here a lot longer than he was. So they take a little shortcut through the woods, cut him off. And one of them walks right up to him and smacks him with this wooden pirate sword right on the back. And it hurts, man. Like, listen, even if someone hits you with a Nerf sword really, really hard, it's not a very pleasant feeling. I'm not saying it's gonna, like, permanently injure you, but you can bruise someone with one of those very easy. Getting smacked with a piece of wood definitely doesn't feel good, and so it kind of knocks him off his bike, and they're all standing over him, and they're like, give us your iPod, give us your iPod. And he's like, it's not an iPod, it's not an iPod, it's an MP3 player. And they're like, oh, that's garbage, give it to us. So he hands it over because he doesn't want to get smacked again. And instead of taking it, they just put it on the ground and use a different one of their wooden swords to smash it. And he's like, what is wrong with you guys? And they're like, we know you're new here, but anything that you have of value, like, we're probably going to take it. You know, we're the pirates of the cul-de-sac, like, don't mess with us, blah, 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 blah. And the kid is like, what? Fine. Like, what is your guys' issue? I won't mess with you guys, but like, what in the world? And they're like, yeah, we've been doing this forever, and if you tell your parents, we're gonna have even bigger problems, like we'll make your whole family's life suck. And he's like, dude, you guys are nuts. But clearly they're committed to being nuts, considering they're just roaming around smacking people they don't know with wooden swords just to take things from them and break them. So whatever, he goes home and he just doesn't really tell his parents, which is dumb. I'm letting everyone know right now, if someone smacks you with a wooden sword, you should tell someone. Cause like, I don't know why you would keep that a secret, man. Someone's gotta nip that in the bud. That just seems like a pretty dangerous situation. Just a roaming gang of pirates on bikes smacking people with wooden swords. Like, someone needs to call someone to make sure that this doesn't keep happening, because this is psychotic. All the kids just live in fear. They're like so afraid to take their new skateboard out, you know, their parents. Why aren't you using your new skateboard, son? Is something going on? No. But whatever, he doesn't tell his parents, and he goes up to his room and he's like, dude, what should I do? And he had an older brother who was like 14 at the time, so like 4 years older than him. And so he goes to him and he kind of tells him the situation and is like, what should I do? And his brother says, well, you got to do something about it, which, you know, you should tell someone. I don't think you should necessarily go all Batman vigilante mode. But his brother goes, I'm going to give you something to help you, like, do something about it. And he says, okay. And his brother was a little bit older, so his parents had decided he was mature enough to have an airsoft gun. And so it was just like a little like, I don't know, AR-looking airsoft gun with a battery in it that could, like, shoot. And airsoft guns hurt, but you can't really do damage unless you, like, hit someone in the eye with it or something. And he goes, if they give you any trouble, just shoot them with this. And he's like, oh, yeah, your airsoft gun's so awesome. Because his brother, being his older brother, had, like, shot him with it before, so he knew how much it hurts. And he's like, yeah, they won't be able to rob me now. And one of the best parts about this house that they had moved into is that the family that had lived there before them had raised a bunch of kids. So there was, like, tree houses and zip lines and all this stuff. And one of them kind of overlooked the road. And so his plan was to go up there and yell at them that they needed to give him money for a new MP3 player. And, like, he wasn't even going to tell them that he had the airsoft gun. And if they tried to, like, rush him or attack him or anything, then he would use it. Because he didn't want to have to do it. He was like, maybe if I just stand up for myself, they'll respect me, you know? Like, he had seen enough movies about it. So whatever, he climbs up in the treehouse, and sure enough, about 15 minutes later, he hears some yelling and pedaling, and he thinks it's the pirate gang coming to, like, ride their bikes by. But what he sees is a kid way smaller than him. Like, gotta be, you know, 6, 7 years old, pedaling as fast as he can away from the pirate gang. And they're gaining on him pretty easily because they're just a lot older than him. And eventually they come and they kind of run him off the road, like right underneath this guy's treehouse. The stars just align. And they walk up to this kid that they're at least twice as old as. And they start like hitting him with the wooden swords. And the kid's like, ow, stop, stop. And at that point, the kid is like, well, I can't go down there and do anything about it because there's so many of them, but I can just open up the airsoft gun, I guess. So he like sticks it out and yells at them to stop, and they're like, no. So he starts shooting the airsoft gun, and they're all like, ow, 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 and they're running. And he didn't really check to see how many pellets were in the little like magazine thing for the airsoft gun before he started. And there was only about like 20 pellets in there, so it runs out pretty quick. And obviously at that point, they're like, we're gonna come get you for that. If you're gonna shoot someone with an airsoft gun, they're not gonna be thrilled about it. Like, let's be honest, chances are if you do something like this guy did, the pirates are going to come and try to like raid your treehouse. But at least they're not like focused on the little kid anymore, so they start walking over to the treehouse and starting to climb up the ladder. And so he starts looking around the treehouse, and all he has is like some water bottles up there. So he just starts like trying to drop the water bottles down the ladder, and they're not very far up the ladder yet. So they stop, and they're like, we're just gonna wait until you come down. We know you have to come down soon. And he's in the treehouse, and he starts realizing that this was not the best, well thought out plan. Like, I don't really think you should do this. I'm not saying you should do what he did. Obviously, you should like yell at them to stop if they're trying to rob another guy. But you get what I'm saying. I don't think this was the most well thought out plan. I don't think this was the best way to handle the situation. But here he is stuck in the treehouse with them down there saying that they're just going to wait. And he doesn't really know what to do. And they had some like walkie-talkies in the treehouse, but he didn't know if his brother was home or not. So he just starts kind of going on the walkie-talkie, and he's whispering because he doesn't want them to hear him like calling for help. And he's like, bro, listen, I was really dumb. I'm stuck in the treehouse. The gang of pirates is standing underneath me. They're just gonna wait till I have to come down. Like, can you come help me? And somehow, by the grace of Grayskull, his brother is in his room, and so he picks it up, and he's like, yeah, I'll come out. And so he opens and closes the back door really loud, and the gang of pirates kind of hears that, and they are like, we gotta get out of here, you know, it's his parents, we gotta go. And they go get on their bikes, and they get out of there, and his brother comes over, and he sees them riding their bikes away, and he yells at them to stop, but obviously they don't stop. If they're willing to be roaming around, like, stealing people's stuff and smacking them with wooden swords, I don't really know how telling them to stop is gonna work. But whatever, they leave. His brother's like, what happened? He tells him what happened. They decide to go figure out where that kid lives. So they go over, knock on the door, ask if they can talk to him. His parents are like, yeah, sure. So they go get him, and the little kid comes out, and they're like, all right, what happened? And he says it's the 4th time that they've tried to rob him, but he never has anything on him, so they just get angry and tell him to bring something nice, which is absolutely bonkers. I mean, think about that. You try to rob someone, and they have nothing on them, and you're like, hey, next time you come, you better make sure that you have a wallet full of Benjamins, okay? I'm over trying to rob you for 4 pennies. Like, I would just never have anything valuable on me after that point. If someone's repeatedly robbing you and keeps telling you to bring nicer things, just don't bring anything nice. Like, why would you do that? But whatever, they're realizing that this problem is really out of control. And even though they had threatened them with, like, if anyone told their parents, they decide that it's gone too far and they have to tell them. So because they were new in the neighborhood, they decide that they're going to tell their parents, and they go and they do. And their parents decide to go around and talk to the other parents about it just to make sure that this wasn't just some rumor that they were telling the new kids to scare them. And all the parents ask their kids, and as soon as the parents start pressuring their kids about it, a bunch of them break, you know? Like, when their parents just weren't pressing them and asking questions, it was just no big deal. But the second they're like, is this going on? Like, please tell me, because we got to take care of this if it's happening. They are like, yes, it happened, you know? They would steal our stuff and whatnot. And all the parents decide that they're going to have a neighborhood meeting. A bunch of the dads wanted to, like, go over there and, like, yell at them. And they were like, no, you can't handle it that way. So they're going to have a neighborhood meeting. And so all the parents go to the neighborhood meeting. So this is just what he heard from his parents who were at the neighborhood meeting, like, back when they came back and told him what had happened. Well, they started talking to the parents of the kids who were in the pirate gang. And they were kind of, like, split in their reactions. There was 4 or 5 kids. And a few of them were, like, immediately outraged, went home to punish their kid because they were, like, so shocked that they would even think that that was okay. They didn't know it was happening. They just thought they were playing pirates outside. I mean, let's be honest. If your kid was like, hey, I'm going to go play pirates, and walked out with an eye patch and a wooden sword, you probably wouldn't think he was going to be roaming around actually robbing people like a pirate. You would probably just think they're, like, I don't know, doing what kids do and, like, playing pirate. I just wouldn't assume that my kid's going on a robbed armory, like an armed robbery spree. I would just assume they're playing pirate. Why would you assume that they're going to be going around stealing from people? But a few of them were almost mad that anything was said. They were like, yeah, well, my kid's playing pirate. What do you expect them to do? As if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know, build a pretend ship fort out of sticks in the woods and, like, pretend that you found buried treasure. You don't run around ramming people off the road, hitting them with wooden swords. You don't do that. There are many ways you can play pirate without actually having to steal anything. You know, or, like, maybe ask some of the other neighborhood kids, like, okay, we're gonna give you guys some fake gold and we're gonna come pillage your ship. I feel like it's way messed up to just go around smacking people with wooden sticks and then, like, taking their MP3 players and smashing it just to teach them a lesson. And those parents immediately start getting drowned out and just screaming from the other parents who are like, you're not actually gonna try to defend this right now, like, what's wrong with you? And the parents kind of double down for a bit, and they're like, well, I just don't think it's that big of a deal. No wonder kids these days are so soft. Do I think kids these days are as tough as they were, like, in the 30s when the Great Depression was going on? No, of course not. A lot of those kids were working in factories at 8. And that being said, I don't think even tough people would really love being robbed and beaten with sticks. Oh, kids are so soft these days. Would you like to be robbed every day, good sir? If on your way to work, there was just some dude way bigger than you in the office, and he walked up to you and just smacked you in the face with a log and said, give me your money, would you be like, yeah, of course, man, you're bigger than me, that's the way the world works? Would you be soft if you didn't like that? I don't think so. I don't think that makes you a soft person to not like being robbed. And at that point, a bunch of the parents decide that they are going to threaten to do something that they didn't want to do. And they're like, well, if you're not going to tell your kids to stop it, the next time it happens, we're going to call the police. And at that point, I think the parents of the kids who were still like, oh, whatever, it's not that big of a deal, realized that they were going to get themselves in a lot more trouble and their kids in a lot more trouble, and that these parents weren't messing around if they didn't shut it down, and they should have shut it down. It's ridiculous that they had to be, like, blackmailed to go tell their kids to stop robbing people. No wonder some kids end up so weird. If your parents are just like, nah, robbery's not that big of a deal, like, dude, no wonder you're roaming around smacking people with wooden swords. You have horrible role models at home. His dad just comes home every day. He's like, son, you will not believe what I got at the store today. I didn't pay for any of it. He walks outside. It's just like a semi-trailer full of stuff. But once they threatened to call the cops, they were like, okay, okay, we'll shut it down. So after that, no one went outside for a while. A bunch of the parents were afraid. They're like, until this gets handled, we're going to give it a little bit for them to have the conversation and know that we're serious about it. We just don't want you guys like riding around. And the neighborhood was actually very united about not liking this, obviously. They had kept it a secret for a while, but as soon as the parents find out that like the stuff that they're giving their kids is being robbed and their kids are being threatened and hit with wooden sticks, they're pretty unified in stopping that. I feel like that's something that definitely gets people on the same page, is like anything like this where the neighborhood begins to get unsafe, and especially if it's people's kids being robbed. Like, they'll do anything to make sure that their kids are safe. But what I don't think anyone expected was that, you know, some of the kids in the pirate gang coming door to door to all the kids that they had robbed and like giving them the stuff back if they still had it, and reading a letter. And there was one kid who had actually definitely written his letter and was like actually sorry. He was sobbing as he read it. I'm so sorry. Which, I guess that kid, whatever, lesson learned. I don't know how much you can really, like, apologize for beating someone with a stick and taking their things. That just kind of seems out there. But whatever, at least he seems sorry. A couple of them definitely were just reading something that their mom wrote. Like, you know, you have to write an apology letter. Mom, I don't want to. This is stupid. You have to. Well, what should I write? You know, they're just standing there straight-faced, like no emotion, acting like they don't want to be there. I'm really sorry for breaking your MP3 player. It probably was not very cool of me. But a lot of the people, like, came and apologized. The kids whose parents were like, no, we're not going to make our kids stop it. Your kids just need to toughen up. Their kids didn't come and apologize, but honestly, considering that they didn't even really care until they threatened to get the cops called, I can't find that surprising. But what was really hilarious is that, like, the subscriber who sent this to me, because his older brother was a little bit older, was just trolling the kids whenever they would come to apologize. Like, they'd be reading the letter, you know, I'm really sorry. Sorry for what? Trying to be a pirate and stealing all the stuff and running you off the road and making you crash your bike and then hitting you with a wooden stick and just like making them go on and on. But whatever, the two kids that hadn't apologized were obviously pissed off that their little ruse had been shut down, and for some reason they were really mad at the subscriber's older brother, the one who had like come out and saw them and then decided to tell everyone, blah 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 blah. So those two decided that they were going to get revenge by robbing his older brother. Their plan was to kind of do their usual pirate tactic of like running someone's bike off the road, making them crash, just kind of like hitting them, kicking them, whatever it may be, just doing anything you can to make them give you the stuff. But his older brother was a little bit older than these two and a bit bigger too, so whatever. He's riding his bike and he sees those two following him, and he's not an idiot. He figures out pretty quickly that if these two guys are going to be following him, they're probably up to no good. Considering all of the other pirate guys had like apologized and really had left it alone, and these two guys were looking pissed off and clearly kind of like communicating to each other, his brother decides to just kind of start going faster. They start going faster, and at that point it's a high-speed bike chase. You know, it's the scene from 21 Jump Street when they're chasing everybody on the bikes, just going around, just chasing each other. However, his brother had been I don't know if it had been like inspired by, maybe it was just convenient that it happened like this, had been like watching Star Wars, I guess. And you know when they're flying the fighters and they'll like do a maneuver to make two enemy fighters crash into each other? He just kind of starts weaving, making super tight turns, and it's forcing them to like get closer and closer to each other on the bikes to like keep up with each other. And so he realizes that they keep kind of lining up one in front of the other. So he goes down this really thin alleyway where it's basically enough for you to like ride your bike down it, but not much else. And right at the end, he just decides to make them crash into each other, and he slams on the brake. You know, full Star Wars fighter pilot, the two enemy fighters. Except what happened was it was like all three of them in a line. There was probably about 15 feet between the guy's older brother and like the first guy trying to rob him, and like 2 feet between him and the other guy. So when he slammed on his brake, the first guy slammed on his brake and the second guy did, but obviously that didn't really work in time because he only had like 2 feet to react, so they just crash into each other. And because it was a thin alleyway and they were going so fast, the guy in the back kind of flips over the guy in the front, his bike goes up and slams down.
And the older brother is just laughing because obviously these guys have been like up to no good trying to rob him, and he had literally made them crash into each other, had to have felt pretty 500 IQ big brain. So he's laughing at them, and they get up. They're like, it's not funny. Except like one of them has pretty messed up his shoulder area. Come to find out he had broke his collarbone, but whatever. They're all pissed off. They're like, you should give us what you have in your pockets since you made us crash. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. You guys were trying to rob me. Why would I give you something because you guys crashed? And they're like, well, you made us crash. And he said, yes, because you guys were chasing me trying to rob me. And they're like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that you have to make us crash our bikes. I don't know, man, but I also think it means that he's allowed to make you crash your bikes. Like, if someone's chasing you and you make them run into a wall, you're not suddenly responsible for them running into the wall. Because if they wouldn't have been trying to rob you, you wouldn't have had to been taking evasive maneuvers now, would you? But whatever, the older brother just bikes away at that point, and they only knew that the kid had broken his collarbone because a couple days later they saw him like going to the mailbox. You know, his parents had told him to go check the mail, and he had the little cast thing on that people get when they break their collarbone. And I love that they were trying to get revenge on who they blamed for it all, only to end up getting themselves even more hurt. And the older brother hadn't decided to tell his parents or anything. He told his little brother, but didn't want to get them in more trouble. He figured them being hurt was enough. And thankfully, after this one, they did learn their lesson. First time around, they really could have just walked away, just gone and apologized. No, we've got to go for the ultimate crime. That's like going to jail for, like, bank robbery, getting out, and the first thing you do is go rob a bank. Oh, were all those years sitting in jail thinking about robbing the bank, were you inspired to do it even better? I can break my record time. You know, they did give up pirating after that, probably because it became a self-hazard. Clearly, they didn't care about stealing from people or anything. But I'm sure when he broke his bone and they were trying to explain to his parents what happened and it involved chasing someone on a bike and crashing, it was like, all right, you guys got to really leave that alone now. I'm saying they should have stopped. Everyone else stopped. But if these kids' parents didn't even want to make them apologize, can we really say we're surprised that it took them getting hurt to stop? Oh no, now that I'm robbing people and they're not going to let me and they're going to make me crash on my bike, I no longer want to rob anyone. Like, that's what's going to make you do it, not the fact that it's just not your property and it's messed up to take things that don't belong to you. No hang-ups on that. You're perfectly fine breaking someone's MP3 player to take them a lesson. But the second they make you crash on your bike, it's too much, guys. I simply cannot continue to take these risks. My health matters too, okay? Robber safety is very important. Everyone has since grown up. The two kids that had tried to rob him again, the one who broke his collarbone and the one whose like parents didn't want to make him apologize, they ended up moving about like 6-7 months after that, and they didn't really keep touch, so they don't really know what happened to them. As for every other pirate, they've now reformed from their ways of piracy and have decided to live in a more civilized era. You know, they went full privateer. They're just robbing people with permission of the HOA now. That's a joke. But seriously, like, they just became semi-normal. I mean, obviously, if you do stupid things when you're a kid, you can grow up and change. I don't think that's impossible. I think even if, like, there's enough time, if you do something dumb and you're an adult, you can probably change too. That being said, it is really funny that they're, like, still walking around with the shame, knowing that they used to be pirates. Someone starts talking about Pirates of the Caribbean. They're like, in my personal pirating experience, I would say, da-da-da-da-da. They're like, personal pirating experience? Yes, I used to be the captain of a pirate crew. I would love to know where the two that decided to go for the follow-up robbery are now, though. Probably, like, I don't know, out in the woods somewhere, just like, you know that guy who lived in that town in California and would just break into cabins when people weren't there and steal their food for like 25 years? They're probably living like that, just still have an eye patch on and go, arg. That's like the only thing they can say now. It's been so long since they've had contact with other humans, they've just gone semi-feral. Anyways, moral of the story, don't rob people or you will break your collarbone. I know most of you probably didn't need to be told that anyways, but just in case you're out there and like, I want to be a pirate, don't do it. Being a pirate is bad, all right? There's my PSA. Anyways, beyond that, if you guys did enjoy the video, I'd really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. I'm going to ask you guys nicely, okay? I'm going to say please with extra sugar on top to comment the word road down below if you made it this far into the video, okay? That's it. I asked extra nicely with sugar, so please just comment the word road. Thank you. It helps the video do better. And if you like these videos but you'd rather listen to the audio, I do post all of the audio over on Spotify. Link down below in the description. Feel free to check it out. And you can also check out the playlist I made here on YouTube that can waste some time for you if you need something to listen to while you're doing chores, homework, video games, whatever it may be, and you need something to listen to. Check that out. Both of those links can be found down in the description, and they're both pretty swagtastic if I say so. And yeah, on that note, guys, I think that'll do it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm gonna keep talking for a little bit longer just because I hit two cool deagle shots here. I guess it's the sheriff in this game, but whatever. It's the deagle if you play CSGO. Oh, there's one. Oh, wow. Oh, another. Wow, wow, wow. What a clever dinosaur move right there. Anyways, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. Today I've got a video I hope you guys are going to enjoy. I was looking through some stories sent in to me, and I found a few different ones that were pretty good about, like, crazy neighbors. But they were pretty short, so I'm just going to do 2 or 3 of them in one video. It'll be a little bit longer, but I think you guys will enjoy it. Definitely not any type of person I would want to live next to, but I know you guys love stories about crazy neighbors. So without further ado, let's get right into it. But before we do, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam whatsoever. Next time you go outside, a llama is going to run down the street and spit on you. Alright, so the first story that we're going to talk about today was sent in to me, and the person is no longer 12, but this took place when they were 12. They were just outside playing with a few of the neighbors on the street. They were playing a pickup game of soccer, and they decided to take like a little halftime break during their game to go get water and whatnot. And they all lived on the same street, so it's not like anyone's house was incredibly far away. They were all within like 3 doors of each other. But for some reason, one of the kids that the person who sent this to me was playing soccer with was like, "Hey man, can I use your bathroom?" And obviously the person who sent this in to me is like, "Dude, your house is right there. Just go use your bathroom. I don't understand why you have to use mine." But for some reason, the guy asking is really insistent. He's like, "Look, man, I really gotta go. I don't think I'm gonna be able to hold it to get back to my house. Can I use your bathroom?" And even though his house was like 3 doors away, and the entire time he spent arguing, he could have gotten to his house already, finally, the subscriber who sent this to me relents and is like, "Okay, fine, use my bathroom. But if my mom asks, just tell her that you're using the bathroom and you'll be right back out, because, like, she doesn't know you and she's gonna wonder why. So just use the bathroom, be quick, like, just hurry, bro." So his friend goes into the house and he's in there for probably like 3 minutes, and he comes back out and he just has this like weird smile on his face. And he's like, "Why are you smiling like that?" And he goes, "Oh, nothing, man, nothing, don't worry about it." So whatever, they keep playing the soccer game, and eventually the street lights come on, and that was kind of their signal to like go home. So the subscriber goes into the house, and when he walks in, his mom is standing there, arms folded, like pissed. And the first thing she says is, "Why did you do that? Like, what is wrong with you? Why would you ever think that was acceptable?" And he's confused, and he's like, "What? Why would I do what?" And she goes, "Come on, you know what you did. That's disgusting. It took me like 35 minutes to clean up. Why would you do that?" And the kid has no clue what his mom is talking about because he didn't do anything. And he's like, "Mom, I was just out there playing soccer. I don't know what happened. Like, what happened?" And she goes, "I didn't realize that I was raising a son that was so disgusting that he would poop in the sink." And he's like, "Wait, what?" And his mom's like, "Come on. I heard you come in from outside, take a little break. When you left the bathroom, I went in there to use the restroom, and you had just pooped in the sink." And he's like, "Mom, I did not poop in the sink. It was da-da-da-da-da. He asked if he could use our bathroom, and I said sure, because he said he really had to go and he wasn't going to make it home, but like, I did not poop in the sink." And his mom is, you know, looking confused because why would some stranger just come into the house and poop in the sink? So she says, if it really was him, then we have to go talk to his parents. Like, we got to go ask him what's up, because that's insane behavior. It needs to be like kiboshed before it happens again. What are you doing, bro? You're just in a house of someone you don't know that well, and you just decide to poop in the sink? Like, why would that be your maneuver? Either way, the mom and the kid go over to this kid's house, and they're knocking on the door, and he answers, and he still has that like goofy weird smile on his face, and he goes, "Oh, hey guys." And the subscriber just goes, "Dude, why did you poop in the sink?" And he just smiles and starts laughing and goes, "I know, it was hilarious, right?" And obviously the mom and the subscriber are both looking at him like, "No, it was not hilarious. Nothing about this was very funny at all. Like, why did you do that?" And so the subscriber's mom is like, are your parents home? He says yes and goes and gets his parents. Which, listen, this entire situation is already dumb enough. But hypothetically, if I ever pooped in someone's sink and they came to my house, I would just be like, my mom and dad aren't home. The fact he went and got his parents thinking somehow his parents were going to be on his side in his situation just goes to show how delusional he is. Anyways, the kid's dad comes to the door and like the mom says, your kid pooped in my sink. And the dad laughs and says, oh, that's hilarious, and high fives the kid. And obviously the mom is shocked because she didn't expect the parent to come to the door and be like, dude, that's hilarious. There you go. Dropping deuces in sinks is what we do around here. It's your family tradition. Like, how did this start? Your great-great-great-grandfather had an enemy that pissed him off. And so in order to get revenge, he broke into his house in the middle of the night and pooped in his sink. So anytime you don't like someone's son, you have to poop in the sink. But the mom is in so much shock, and now she's just pissed because she feels like the parents are supporting it. So she starts going off, what's wrong with you? Why would you raise your kid like that? Who thinks it's acceptable to poop in someone's sink? I've never even met your son. Like, what do you think this is? You're gonna high five your kid and congratulate him for pooping in my sink? That's psychotic. You're a horrible parent. I ought to call in. You're clearly not fit to raise this guy. And the dad is kind of standing there wide-eyed, shocked. And she finishes her rant and he looks at his kid and says, wait, you really did it? And the kid, beaming ear to ear, goes, yeah, it was hilarious. And the dad starts yelling, I thought you were kidding. Go to your room. What's wrong with you? You can't go around pooping in people's sinks. I thought this was a joke. Are you kidding me? When would that behavior ever be acceptable? Which at least is a good turn of events. You know, he's yelling at the kid, punishing him, because, yeah, someone's got to shut that down, bro. I would have been so confused if the dad just kept supporting it. As an American, it's our right to poop in the sink. It's like, yours, not mine, bro. You want a waffle stomp in your home, I guess that's protected, but you can't do that in my house. But the dad is yelling at him and tells the kid to go to his room. And the kid's pissed off and he's like, I thought it was funny. And he stomps off to his room. And his dad turns and starts just profusely apologizing to the subscriber and his mom. I don't know what got into my kid. I'm so embarrassed. The dad at that point's entire tone shifted at least though. And he offered to like pay for a cleaning service to their house. But the mom did not want that. And after that, she was like, listen, you never hang out with that kid again, okay? I don't care what game it is, just avoid him. And he did. It's not like he really needed to be told that. If someone's gonna like beg to use your bathroom just to poop in your sink, it's probably acceptable to be like, yeah, you can't use my bathroom anymore, bro. So that story's wild, but I got another one for y'all. Hopefully you like this one as much. Alright, so this one was sent in to me by somebody that actually just recently purchased their first house, and the way that this neighborhood that they bought the home is set up, there's like a really wide driveway, and there's two houses that share the driveway on the left and the right of it. And, you know, that kind of seems like a crappy situation. It's just going to cause problems. What if somebody parks too far over and now they're on your side of the driveway? What if they have friends over and they block your driveway? I would just hate to have to share a driveway with somebody because you don't get to control who your neighbor is, and what if it's a jerk? I just think it was going to lead to problems, and it was especially a problem because this guy's new neighbors were really, really rude. They would just park their car like in the middle of the driveway, which they're supposed to share, and prevent them from being able to park. They would like block them in, park right behind them so they can't move their car, just be giant douchebags about it. And at first the guy's like, all right, maybe they're just not really aware of how annoying they're being, so he would go and knock on the door and politely be like, excuse me, I think that you blocked me in. But instead of just moving their car or being cool about it, they would always be like, well, you guys don't know how to park, so we have to park like that. Yeah, they don't know how to park, so you can park in their driveway? Well, if they were so bad at parking, then how was there enough room to block them in? Like, if they were really garbage at parking, they'd probably be sideways in the driveway taking up a bunch of room, but nah. Either way, because the guy was a big jerk, it just kept getting more and more heated until eventually the person that sent this to me had enough, and when he was blocked in one day when he went to get groceries, he went up, knocked on the door, and said, listen, you need to move your car, and next time this happens, I'm not coming and knocking and asking, I'm calling the tow truck and getting it towed. which seems like an extreme step, but you have to remember, this is probably the 12th time that they've blocked him into his driveway in his garage, and every single time he goes and knocks, they act like it's his fault or they get annoyed that they have to move the car. Sorry that you parked in front of my garage and now I can't leave without your car being in the way. Like, would you prefer I just hit it out of the way? I don't understand. And they didn't like that, and they were like, you're not gonna tow it or call a tow truck, sorry. We don't care, we're not afraid of it, like we are just gonna park where we wanna park. You guys are the reasons that we have to park bad. Still not understanding that connection. You're the reason I have to park in front of your garage, just makes no sense. Hey, listen, man, if you weren't my neighbor, you wouldn't be the person getting pissed off about where I'm parking. It's like, all right, so the next person that lives here, you're also gonna do it too? Yeah, but it's gonna be their fault because they put the garage there. That's not my problem. But they move their car and he goes to the grocery store, and you would think that maybe they would heed the warning a little bit. Okay, you guys are insistent on parking like jerks and blocking in your neighbors. I guess fine. Like, it's obviously not fine, but you know, what are you gonna do? But you might want to wait like a day, maybe a day and a half before you go back to blocking the driveway, because he just said he's gonna get the car towed. I feel like if you block him now, it's just guaranteeing that's gonna happen. But sure enough, he comes back from the grocery store and sees his neighbor's car in the driveway, so now he can't get into the driveway or park in the garage because they've parked at the end of the driveway, which prevents him from getting to any part of the driveway or the garage totally. So he does what he says he was going to do, and he calls a tow truck. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Let's be honest. You warned someone, stop blocking my driveway or I'm going to call the tow truck. And you come back like under an hour later. Let's say it was an hour tops, and they're parked in your driveway. I feel like if you don't get their car towed at that point, they're just going to think they can park wherever they want on your property. Tomorrow, you're going to wake up with their sedan in the kitchen. What are you going to do about it? You know, like at some point, you got to do something. So he calls the tow truck, explains the situation. They say they're going to send somebody out, but he just kind of sits there at the bottom of the driveway. And he can see his neighbors looking out the window at the situation and laughing. And he's like, oh, they think it's super funny that I'm blocked down here, but they're not going to think it's funny in a second. And like 20 minutes later, the tow truck pulls up, and this entire time he's been parked behind their car, like half on the sidewalk. There's not a lot of people on the street, you know, it was okay, but he's just making sure that their car can't move now. And the tow truck comes up, and then the neighbors that are looking out the window thinking this is the funniest thing ever suddenly get this look on their face like it wasn't very funny anymore. Yeah, you put your car being towed on the line and it's not funny at all. So they come outside and they start being like, whoa, 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 you can't tow our car. And the tow truck driver has definitely dealt with this before. I feel like they're probably experts on the whole, whoa, you can't tow my car thing. I'm sure that's literally the thing that they hear the most. So he's like, well, is that your house? And they're like, no. Okay, well then you're parked in his driveway and he can have you towed because it's his private property. And they're like, well, you need to let me move the car. And he's like, no, I'm not going to let you move the car. I'm just going to hook it up. So he hooks up the car, and the entire time they're sitting there screaming at the tow truck driver, which I've never understood. Like, I can understand being pissed about your car being towed, but the guy's job is to tow the car. I feel like screaming at him and hurling insults at him is only going to make him take even more pleasure in towing the car. Like, imagine you're the tow truck driver in this situation. You're an idiot. You're a moron. I hate you, dude. Your mom probably is so ashamed of everything you are. I would start to be like, oh, I'm taking your car. I'm taking your car, and I'm going to take it to the furthest tow lot I can. Hell, I might even take it a state over. That's probably illegal. You can't do that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if someone's towing your car, insulting them is only going to make them better at towing your car or take more pleasure in it. And it's also definitely a job that's used to it. You know, like, oh, tow truck drivers, what's the meanest thing you've ever heard? Probably pretty mean things. You saying he's a loser isn't going to make him suddenly be like, oh, you're right, and drop your car and just leave. Either way, the car gets towed, and at that point, he pulls into his driveway, goes into his garage, parks in the garage, and closes the garage door before his neighbor can come talk to him. But he hears them banging on the garage door, and they're just yelling at him, saying they're gonna get him back for that one, just wait, they're gonna get their revenge. And he instantly pulls up on his phone. He had this like security system for his house, and he pulls up the Ring doorbell and just like takes a recording of them
because the doorbell could hear them banging on the door and threatening him, saying that, like, we're gonna get revenge on you, just in case. So he gets that recording and he just goes about his business. He figures that they'll probably look into it, realize nothing he did was illegal, and leave it alone. That's not what they decide to do, because this guy's roommate parked in the driveway outside of the garage. And the next morning, he goes outside with his roommate who was getting ready to go to work, and his roommate's tires are slashed. And they're like, okay, well, that sucks. Good thing we have security cameras, and we have a pretty good idea of who did it. They weren't saying it was their neighbors. They were going to check the footage. They wouldn't accuse somebody of that with no evidence. But that being said, if yesterday someone's banging on your garage saying they're gonna get you back, and the next morning your roommate has his tires slashed in the driveway, I wonder what could have possibly happened. There is nothing that would lead you to believe that your neighbors would have been involved. But they go and they check the camera, and sure enough, at about 2:30, you see the neighbor come out of their house, walk over, slash the tires, and then go back. So they take this like video evidence, they send it to themselves on an iPad, and they go over and they start banging on the door to the neighbor's house. And the neighbor opens the door and he's looking all smug and he's like, hello? And they give him a chance before they show him the video. They're like, look, we know you slashed the tires. Please just come clean and we won't get the cops involved. And he's like, I have no idea who slashed the tires, but I can't blame whoever did. You guys park like jerks. You might as well slap a sticker on your forehead that says, hey, it was me. I committed the crime. And at that point, they up the ante. They flip the iPad around and they show him the very clear video of him walking out of his house. No mask or anything, by the way, just straight up him slashing the tires and walking back in. And all of a sudden, his demeanor changes and he's like, whoa, guys, come on, let's be reasonable. Oh, now you want to play the reasonable game. Slashing your neighbor's tires? Nah. When they want to, like, get something for the tires you slashed, now let's be reasonable, guys. Come on, we can talk this out. Where was talking this out before you made him have to do, like, a $500 repair, bro? Tires ain't cheap. And it's just a huge inconvenience, because the tires are slashed here, so he's either got to go get the tires, not wheels, the rims were fine. Get the tires, bring it back, put them on in the driveway, which would be a pain, or he's got to have the car, like, put up on a flatbed, taken somewhere to have the tires put on. This is just insane. And at that point, the roommate looks at the neighbor and he says, look, we can do two things. Either I can go to the police and I can show them the video and, charge you and get the stuff that I need to fix the car, and you can get a criminal sentence, or you can just give me the money to fix the car and leave us alone. Like, just stop messing with us in the driveway, stop parking by us. Like, just leave us alone, man. Like, those are the options. But either way, we have video evidence of you doing this. Which I know some people are like, isn't that technically blackmail? I guess, but at the same time, they're also saying, like, you probably will go to jail or get in trouble for this and have to pay to fix the car. If you just give me the money to fix what you broke and leave us alone, then we're good. It's a pretty solid offer. I would say it's like a Billy Mays level offer. For one small payment of fixing what you broke and shutting up and leaving them alone, you won't go to prison. Like, hey, that's a pretty good trade-off. And the neighbor agrees because, duh, like, that's kind of all he can really do in that situation. And it was resolved, and thankfully, he left them alone after that. No more slashing tires or getting mad about the driveway. All right, the last story I got for you guys today comes from somebody that just moved into a new apartment complex, and they signed a lease for a couple years, and they had never been in a place for a couple of years before, so they decided that they were gonna, like, make some improvements to what was going on. So they ordered a new router because the apartment complex provided one, but because it was provided by the apartment complex, it was from like 1984 and didn't go very quickly. And I guess whoever had been there before him hadn't changed the password or done anything differently, because when he unplugged the router for a bit to put the new one on, he changed the network name, network password, and logged in. Everything's running good. But as he was still setting some stuff up, he hears this like super angry pounding at the door. And he goes and he looks through the people, and it's like a guy that he's seen around the apartment complex before getting mail or whatever. And he thought that he had lived in his building, but maybe like beneath him or like beneath him to the left on the bottom floor. And the guy's still pounding on the door and he's like, open up, man, I gotta talk to you. And so the guy cracks open the door, but he cracks it open so there's still like that chain thing there.
and the guy pushes it open to where the chain locks, and immediately the person who sent this to me is like, whoa, bro, you can't come in, like, relax. And the guy is super pissed off and just yelling about, why did you turn off the Wi-Fi? I was using it, what's wrong with you? And the person who sent this to me is confused. They're like, dude, what do you mean? You don't live here. Like, why would you be using my Wi-Fi? And the guy's like, dude, I don't want to pay for Wi-Fi in my apartment, so I've been using this one. Me and the guy who lived here before you had an agreement that I could use it, so you better plug it back in. And I don't think that was as good of a negotiating point as he thought it was, because guess what? The person who used to live here doesn't. So any agreements that you had with that guy just don't matter anymore. Imagine that's how it worked. You just go over to your neighbor who's about to move away. Like, can you just agree with me that whoever's in this house has to give me $8,000 a month? Sure, whatever, I'm moving. The next guy moves in. Listen, dude, you gotta pay your taxes. $8,000 a month. The guy who lived here before you agreed to it. It doesn't matter who lived there before. So the person who sent this to me starts to get pissed off and starts going off back at the guy through the door with like the little chain thing. I don't know who you think you are, but I'm not going to pay for your Wi-Fi. Like, just quit being broke and get your own. Which, I mean, is a pretty fair comeback. Like, listen, Wi-Fi is just one of those things at this point in the 21st century you just kind of have to have. Technically, you don't have to have it. If you really are hell-bent on not having Wi-Fi, you think that it spreads radiation or whatever, you wear a tinfoil hat around your apartment, I don't know. Like, it's America. Technically, you can do what you want. I'm gonna have Wi-Fi. I'm not gonna wear a tinfoil hat, but you do you. But it's ridiculous to assume that somebody else is just gonna let you bum Wi-Fi forever because you had an agreement with somebody else. I thought this was something that people only made jokes about, like, oh, stealing my neighbor's Wi-Fi. Are you kidding me? My connection from my router is already crappy enough in certain parts of the house. The last thing I want to try to do is steal my neighbor's Wi-Fi and use it for anything. Alright guys, I'm going to interrupt the video for just 1 second. On screen now is a gift card code. I give one of these away in every video, so if you like the story time so far and you appreciate free money, subscribe, turn on notifications. Let's get back to the video. Peace. Your YouTube video is taking like 9 hours to load because you're 300 feet away from the router through 8 concrete walls. And at that point, I guess the guy must have been like checking out the apartment through the crack in the door where the chain was, because he sees the box to the new router and goes, oh, did you get a new router? And the guy's like, yeah, but you're not gonna use it, leave me alone. And at that point, he slams the door back closed and locks it. But the guy on the other side of the door isn't done yet, so he keeps banging on the door, and now he's just yelling through the door because he knows the guy's home, and he's like, you better let me get on that new router. I know the old Wi-Fi was slow. If you're gonna get an upgrade, the least you can do is share it. Apparently it wasn't my Wi-Fi, it was our Wi-Fi. Out of pure principle at this point, I would just never let him on the network. Like, if they would have been really cool, look dude, money's tight right now, this is really embarrassing, but can I just use your Wi-Fi a couple hours a day to like send in job applications or watch YouTube to relax? Maybe. I'm not 100%, but like probably in that situation. But if you're going to be banging on the door demanding that he pay for your Wi-Fi, then like goodness gracious. But at that point, it made the guy curious. So he gets on the ISP, which was hooked up to the old router, and starts looking at the data. And he realizes that like he had a data plan that ended at, I don't know, 500 gigabytes or something. And he was almost maxing it out every month. And he had just assumed that he was watching a ton of YouTube and whatnot and didn't question it, because why would he assume there's a stranger on his network? Well, he starts looking into it, and the guy that had been bumming the Wi-Fi had just been using insane amounts of internet. Like 85% of the plan that this guy was paying for was going to the neighbor that was just stealing the Wi-Fi. And that's just inconsiderate, dude. If you are going to get onto your neighbor's network and you want to keep it low key, don't use all the Wi-Fi. You got to use it sparingly, you know? This is the equivalent of if Netflix only let you use like so many streams a month and your friend used all of the streams on your account. At that point, you just gotta sign him out. Since that interaction, though, the neighbor has been like especially petty and pissed off and keeps leaving notes asking if he'll please let him use the Wi-Fi, and he ignores them, but he kind of switches between different like notes. Sometimes it'll be very, very angry. If you don't let me use the Wi-Fi, I'm gonna leave a bad review on your Yelp page. If you don't let me use the Wi-Fi, you'll single-handedly be responsible for ruining my life.
And then, like, switching to apologetic, I'm very sorry for the conflict I may have created. I understand how this may be bothersome, but therefore I request that we solve this peacefully. And then right back to, like, angry the next day. Screw you, I tried to be nice, but if you're not gonna let me use the Wi-Fi. And finally, after like 2 weeks of a note being on his door every day, he goes to management and he says, look, okay, this guy's not gonna leave me alone. He was using my Wi-Fi, da-da-da-da-da. He shows them all the letters and they say that they're gonna tell the guy to stop. So they tell the guy to stop and he does, because now it's not just like free Wi-Fi on the line, but I'm sure there's a rule against leaving notes on your neighbor's doors, like threatening notes. So he stopped leaving notes, but now whenever he sees him checking the mailbox, walking his dog, whatever it may be, just like seeing him out in existence, he just loudly complains about how some people are selfish and are willing to deny other people the access to Wi-Fi because they care too much about themselves. I didn't realize it was selfish to just like not want strangers using the stuff that you pay for, especially 85% of it. It would be different if you're barely using the Wi-Fi. Actually, it wouldn't. You still have the right to tell someone no, even if they only want a little bit of a bite of your cake. It's still your cake. You don't have to give it to anyone. But especially if somebody said, hey man, share your cake, and then ate it all and left you the scraps, you would be like, no, I'm not ever giving you cake again. Are you crazy? Either way, none of the people that we've talked about today is anyone that I want to live next to personally. If you guys enjoyed the video, though, I think that'll do it. Be sure to press the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments section down below. And of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. I post videos like this every single day, so if you like this type of content, subscribe. Turn on those noties. If you like the story times, but you don't have the time to watch it on YouTube, you'd rather listen to an audio version or whatever, I do post the audio versions on Spotify. Link can be found down below. Feel free to check it out, along with a link to a new playlist I made here on YouTube with some of my favorite story times of the year so far. So if you want to check that out while you're doing your chores or hanging out, whatever, playing video games, that link's also down below. But on that note, guys, I think that'll really do it for the video. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I will see each and every single one of you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story time that was sent into me by a subscriber that works at a pool as a lifeguard. And, you know, for the most part, he said his job is pretty chill. Most people don't want to be that rude to the lifeguard, because on the off chance he ends up having to save their life, it's not worth having beef with the dude that's trained to resuscitate you. He's gonna do the chest compressions a little too hard, break as many ribs as possible. But anyways, he was having a pretty standard summer working at this pool, until this guy named Nathan started showing up. And Nathan was just an insanely entitled, spoiled kid who must have lived close to the pool, because the dude was there every single day. And every time he showed up, it was just insanely annoying to everyone working, because he just didn't listen to literally anything they said. He was the same age as most of the lifeguards, in fact, probably a little bit older than some of them, so he just kind of thought that he didn't have to listen. And it wasn't like they were telling Nathan things that were drastically unfair or overly controlling. They were just trying to enforce the rules, like no running, no diving, the standard pool rules. And Nathan, man, the rules that are pretty standard at every pool, you would have thought that somebody came down and told George Washington he wasn't allowed to have freedom, the way he would react. What do you mean I can't run and dive into the pool? This is insane. This is America. I should be able to do whatever I want. And it's like, listen, bro, basically the reason you can't do that is because we're trying to prevent brain damage from being put onto your brain. But I guess if you really want a USA freedom and run and dive into the shallow end, you're more than welcome to. Anytime they would say something, though, he would basically tell them that they had no authority and that he didn't have to listen to them, which obviously is annoying when you're just trying to do your job. But the problem was, it was kind of true. The lifeguards themselves weren't allowed to kick people out of the pool unless they managed to get a manager to approve the person being removed. And the managers at this particular pool were insanely lazy and wanted to avoid work as much as possible. There was this little like air-conditioned room that overlooked the pool, and for the most part the managers would just sit in there and talk and goof off. And so the last thing they ever wanted to do was come out onto the pool deck and actually deal with anything. So Nathan could be as mean as he wanted to the lifeguards, and the managers wouldn't do a whole lot. In fact, a lot of the lifeguards had come together and told the managers about Nathan, and they didn't really care at all. What they told them to do was handle it for themselves because they just thought it would be too much of a process to kick him out. And listen, I understand being lazy at your job. I get it. I'm sure managing a pool is not the most fun thing in the world. That being said, when your job is like keeping people safe at the pool and you have a regular that just straight up doesn't listen to the people in charge of keeping people safe, maybe kicking him out is a good idea. If he's really going to demand a dive into the shallow end, that's just a lawsuit waiting to happen. Either way, I think the managers would regret telling them to handle it themselves because they decided to handle it themselves and immediately started planning on what to do. If Nathan was going to suck and yell at them and break the rules and make the pool less fun, then they were going to make the pool less enjoyable for him. The one benefit to the managers always staying in that like little air-conditioned room is that they weren't too aware of what was actually going on at the pool. For the most part, they could have literally thrown a party, and as long as it didn't get too loud, the managers probably wouldn't even have looked up from their phones. But it also meant that they could like mess with Nathan a little bit, and as long as it didn't cause an insane level of freaking out, they really wouldn't get in trouble for it because they're not paying attention anyways. So all the guards decided that the next time Nathan came to the pool, they would let him get in, and then like 30 seconds later, they were going to blow all their whistles and announce that it was time to clean the pool for the day, and they had to shock it, and everyone had to get out for like 25 minutes. And yeah, it was pretty petty, but their thought was he would probably just get bored if he had just gotten there and couldn't swim for 25 minutes, and he would leave, and then they just wouldn't have to deal with arguing with him all day. And listen, obviously it's a pretty petty maneuver, but if someone's just not listening to you and your boss said handle it yourself, and you find a way to handle it yourself, I can't really fault you for that. If anything, you should get a promotion, because all you're really doing is following the manager's orders. My goodness, what a great employee. I love it when my employees come together and come up with the master plan to piss off a mini Karen as much as humanly possible. But the idea was to just make him bored so he would leave. And if the entire time he's waiting, he's arguing with people, they would just blow the whistle at him every time he broke the rules. So if he tried to argue and was screaming, just blow the whistle at him. If he tried to run over to another guard and yell at them, you just blow the whistle at him. And the goal was to just annoy him as much as humanly possible and let him know that he wasn't going to be able to walk all over the guards anymore. They were taking back control of the pool. And like I said, sure, it's pretty petty, but that being said, it is also just funny. If you had someone that was always showing up at your workplace and arguing with you, and you had the ability to just blow the whistle at them really loudly every time they said something dumb, you might want to eventually do it too. And to defend the lifeguards for 1 second, they did go to management and try to get it handled by them. They were told to handle it themselves. This is what happens. You tell a bunch of people that don't have to be responsible to handle it, and it's not going to be the way the manager would have. The manager would have gone over probably with like an edible arrangement fruit basket. Nathan, can you please relax on your behavior? It's just really not doing a whole lot for the functionality of the pool. And Nathan would have gone, shut up, I want to dive into the shallow end, moron. It's my right as an American to give myself brain damage. Anyways, the next day at the pool, Nathan shows up, and they actually hear him coming into the pool before they see him because he's in the parking lot screaming out the lifeguard's name and calling them insults. And you know, he's not like swearing in the parking lot. They're relatively mild insults, but still, it sets the mood off rip because he's literally in public walking through the parking lot, screaming out their name and then saying that they suck, you know, their mom's a hoe, that type of thing. And as he's walking in through the parking lot, he has to walk past the tennis courts, and he's screaming this stuff, and there's people on the tennis court, and they're probably insanely confused, trying to enjoy the game. Oh wow, nice backhand. Also, who's Mike and why is his mother such a promiscuous woman? Just really confused as to why someone's screaming in the parking lot. As I said, it's just not worth it to be insulting the person who might have to save your life. Even if you're real confident in your swimming, I just feel like walking through the parking lot screaming at the lifeguards, insulting them, only ends up with you in a situation where no one wants to save you, but whatever. That's his prerogative, but that's kind of the tone for how the day's gonna go. Those lifeguards though, man, I'm not saying it's the hardest job in the universe. I wouldn't say it's like crazy hard. That being said, it is important. Even if you're a good swimmer, you're one Charlie horse away from David Jones' locker. You know, the lifeguards are excited to execute their master plan on Nathan, though. And so the subscriber who sent this to me tells the lifeguards to just wait. Remember, you gotta, follow the plan. Don't get overzealous. We got this. Just trying to kind of keep everybody focused. And by this point, Nathan is now in the pool. And when he comes in, he says something about how he feels bad for the lifeguards. And one of the lifeguards asks him why he feels bad for them because he doesn't really understand what's going on. And Nathan started saying that he felt bad for them because they all had horrible jobs and they just weren't smart enough to do anything else. Keep in mind, they haven't even really said anything to the guy yet. This is all off rip. Walking through the parking lot, insulting them, walking in and saying that they're stupid and wouldn't be able to have better jobs, so you feel bad for them. Just no reason to be treating anyone like that, especially someone that's gonna be, I don't know, watching out for you. And especially as somebody who's working a job. You're at the pool every day, you're not working. How you gonna hate on somebody that's actually got a gig? Either way, they literally didn't say anything to him, and now they're too stupid for a good job. And everyone is more on board with their plan. Before, there were a few lifeguards that were I don't know if I really want to mess with him. It doesn't really seem worth it. But since he decided to come in and just start insulting them and calling them losers, all the lifeguards were now on board with messing with him as much as humanly possible. It's kind of what happens. You start messing with a group, they're probably going to be more on board to mess with you back. They let Nathan get all set up, and he runs and dives into the pool. And obviously, that's against the rules, so they blow the whistle. And Nathan looks all confused, kind of standing there in the shallow end of a pool. And one of the guards goes up to him and says, "Hey man, you got to get out of the pool. First of all, no diving. And second of all, we're about to do a chemical cleaning, so you're just not allowed to be in the pool while we're balancing the chemicals. You got to get out." And Nathan isn't really having any of it. And he looks at the guard and says something about how that's not fair. He just got here. They could wait to clean the pool. He's not getting out right now. Doing his usual entitled routine. And listen, obviously you don't want to just get to the pool and then have to wait 25 minutes. But if they're going to clean the pool, they're going to clean the pool. It's not like they're going to magically delay it for one guy. The subscriber, though, had more experience than the guy who was arguing with Nathan, so he starts walking over there. And on his way over there, the argument must have progressed because Nathan decides that he's going to splash water on the lifeguard all dramatically. And maybe in his mind, it was a really big deal, a way to really show him who's boss. Take that, splash the lifeguard and really teach him a lesson. The only problem is it's pretty stupid to try to splash a lifeguard to teach them a lesson and protest their rules, because all it does is show that you're not gonna cooperate with them and don't respect them. Other than that, it does literally nothing. I'm pretty sure lifeguards expect to get wet at some point. They're kind of working by a pool, bro. I'm not sure what Nathan expected when he decided to splash this guy who was telling him to get out for the chemical cleaning. He was gonna pull a Wicked Witch of the West. I'm melting. Dude, lifeguards' uniforms is literally a swimsuit or swim trunks. It's literally a part of the uniform. You know, you might have to dive into the water to save somebody's life. So yeah, splashing them, all it does is just make you look petty. Sure, okay, he might be annoyed for 25 seconds, but at the end of the day, he was probably expecting to get splashed with water at some point, considering he works at a pool. But Nathan is just arguing with him, saying he's not gonna get out, he just refuses, blah, 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 blah. And the subscriber finally gets over there and can join the conversation. When the subscriber gets to Nathan, he just tells him that he has to get out of the pool. And now Nathan starts arguing with him and asks why. And the subscriber explains that they have to clean the pool with chemicals, blah, 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 blah. And it wouldn't be safe to swim in chemicals because that's how you end up in X-Men. But not a cool X-Men, one with really, really lame powers. I have the ability to turn into a bucket, not a fun one is when you swim in chemicals. Either that or you just get a rash over your entire body the size of Texas. But, you don't really want to be swimming in chemicals if you can avoid it. If the Simpsons movie taught me anything, it's that chemical contamination, oh my gosh, if I could talk, that'd be sick, is never a good thing. Nathan, though, still really isn't getting it and says, well, why do you need to clean it if the water's not dirty? And listen, it doesn't matter if the water looks dirty. You're in a public pool. You gotta hit that stuff with the chemicals once a day. Otherwise, that's just gross. Like, at that point, it's just a large bathtub with hundreds of people's germs in it. Not even just hundreds of people, hundreds of strangers' germs in it. You know how many weird diseases probably end up in a pool filter on the daily? A lot. I mean, I don't know for sure. I don't, own a pool cleaning company, but I'm gonna guess that those filters get pretty gross after a few hundred people have just been soaking in that water. Yummy. I would not necessarily want to be in it without it being cleaned. Maybe that makes me a freak. I'm sure some people in the comments are like, I prefer dirty water. Hey, good for you, man. The subscriber tells Nathan, though, that, he has to get out of the water because it looks clean, but it can be dirty. And on top of that, tons of kids have probably peed in the water, so it's up to him. If he really wants to insist on swimming in it, then, okay, that's up to him, I guess. But if he wants them to clean the pee out of the pool, then he should get out. And at that point, Nathan is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. He's got to get out, or he's kind of got to accept that he's choosing to swim in dirty kid pee water. Not very swag, but the plan worked, and he ends up going fine, I'll get out. He literally scoffed when he said that, but, he does get out, and then he asks how long it's going to be. And the subscriber tells him it'll be about 25 minutes, and Nathan starts whining, and he's like, are you kidding me? Is there any way that you guys can do it faster? And listen, I understand 25 minutes is an annoyingly long wait, but Nathan, dude, I don't think that's how chemicals work. I don't think anyone has the ability to really speed up a chemical cleaning. I don't think chemicals do that. No matter how much they take the chemicals into the back room and give it an 80s sports movie motivational speech, it's not going to speed it up. All right, chlorine, if you ever want to redeem your war crimes, you gotta clean this pool and you gotta do it fast. We got people waiting to swim in this. I don't think the lifeguard, I don't think anyone can really make it go faster. So, whatever. He's kind of complaining about it, but there's not much they can do. And he sits on the chair that his stuff's on, all pissed off because he's gonna have to wait. And they go about cleaning the pool. And obviously, they're kind of taking their sweet time cleaning the pool. It's not like they're having a huge sense of urgency about it. Yes, is it annoying? Sure. But there was nobody else there at this current time other than Nathan. So they were like, look, let's take as long as possible and just troll him. That was their plan from the start, but they're cleaning the pool. They're not taking insanely long. They're not going to double the time, but it might take 5 extra minutes just because they're triple checking their measurements. Obviously, when you're dealing with chemicals, you never want to have the potential for an accident. So if you just take some extra time to double check that all your measurements are correct, that's probably the responsible thing to do, honestly. Alright guys, we're about halfway through the video, so I'm going to ask you to smack the like button if you're enjoying the video so far. Helps the video do better, and I'd appreciate it. Deuces. And they had expected Nathan to just give them a crap ton of problems the entire time they were cleaning the pool, just because he's always complaining, but for the most part, he's pretty quiet at first. He just kind of sits there waiting for his giant blow up to come, and they can tell he's kind of stewing, but he's not saying anything. Functioning a little bit like a volcano, where the pressure just keeps building and building up, and eventually it's gonna result in an eruption, but for now the volcano's just looking angrier and angrier. And for 10 minutes, he's just kind of sitting there staring at them cleaning the pool, and they could tell he was getting more pissed off, but hey, it's not their problem. In fact, what I think he's probably doing for those 10 minutes is when you're having an imaginary scenario in your head and you're arguing back and forth to prepare for an argument that's never happened. He's probably in his head getting ready to be like, why is this taking so long? And then they're gonna say this and I'm gonna say this. I don't know why, I just get that vibe from Nathan. Probably why he was so quiet for 10 minutes is he's pretending he's about to have his movie lawyer moment where he's just gonna light up all of these lifeguards for taking too long to clean the pool and violating his right to freedom. Never forget, Nathan is a patriot for the right to dive into the shallow end of a pool. Finally though, 11 minutes after they told him to get out of the pool, he snaps. He stands up all quick and literally stomps over to the subscriber like an angry dinosaur, stomp, 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 trying to make his feet make the loudest noise possible. Probably hurt his feet, because I'm gonna assume slamming on concrete barefoot doesn't feel too great after a minute. But he stomps his way over to the subscriber and is like, what's taking so long? And the subscriber tells him the truth, which is that the chemicals are doing their thing. They can't speed it up, and at the bare minimum, it's gonna be about another 15 minutes. And he's sorry for the inconvenience, but obviously they have to clean the pool to keep it at a certain quality, blah, blah, blah. But he's lathering on that customer service voice where they're being overly nice. Nathan, I'm so sorry for the interruption. My goodness, if there was a way for me to have not cleaned the pool right now, then I would have done it. But unfortunately, we have standards, and I can't get in trouble with my boss. I hope you understand. We love having you here. And he's saying everything he's gotta say, but he's doing it with just enough sarcasm where Nathan can pick up that it's not genuine, but not enough sarcasm where he can, like, go to the manager and say he's being facetious? That perfect amount of, like, being a customer service professional while also being petty. And to that information and hint of pettiness, Nathan just absolutely loses his marbles. If he was a kid in the Great Depression and had a collection, they would be gone, because all of his marbles just go flying out the window. You expect me to wait 25 minutes to use the pool? That's ridiculous! And the subscriber tries to get out an explanation about how, like, it wasn't his choice for how long the chemicals took, but Nathan only lets him get about halfway through his sentence before he keeps screaming, "That's insane! I'm a customer of this pool. You guys are morons. I don't understand why you just can't speed up this process." Once again, because chemicals don't really react well to being yelled at and told to speed up. I don't think that would do anything. But on top of it, the subscriber's really annoyed that he called himself a customer of the pool, because it was like a community pool for the development they were in. It was paid for by the HOA, and it was free for people who lived there. I mean, obviously his parents were paying for the pool, but it wasn't like he was a customer of anything, because, you know, he didn't pay for anything. It was a community pool that was included in, like, the HOA dues. Sorry. Not that it would matter. The guards would treat everyone the same whether they paid or not. They're usually professional, but him using the whole, like, I'm a customer excuse on why he's acting how he's acting just makes no sense, because no one paid. Anyways, though, he just kind of kept screaming at them that, like, they're a bunch of high school dropouts, they're a bunch of pathetic losers, he could do a better job of this in his sleep, it's not very hard to do what they do, la-da. And listen, I've literally never been a lifeguard, okay? I've never sat up on the stand and had to watch people do anything. I have no clue how hard it would be. I wouldn't say it's in, like, my top 5 hardest jobs that I would imagine are the most difficult. I wouldn't say it's, like, a top 10 even. That being said, I don't think it's, like, the easiest job you could ever have in your life. I'm sure there's a lot easier options, and one thing that I know for sure, Nathan, is that you can't do it when you're asleep. I could do a better job in my sleep. I'm pretty sure at the bare minimum, lifeguarding does require consciousness, you know, like being able to see the people that might be drowning in the pool is an important step in the process. I don't want anyone to drown, don't get it twisted, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think you could do this job unconscious, Nathan. But whatever, they're just kind of like looking at him, screaming at them for not being able to speed up a chemical process. And when the lifeguards don't start screaming back, Nathan decides that he's just not done yelling yet, and so he starts screaming that they get paid to basically stand around and stop people from running, but they're not going to be able to stop him from running anymore. Which, hey man, USA, but that's really what you're, like, massively preoccupied with, is your right to run by the pool. That's, like, something that they don't want you to do because the floor's slippery and you might get hurt, not because they hate the joy of aerobics. But he decides to start running around the pool, I guess to teach them a lesson about how they don't control him. And right when he starts running, all of the lifeguards strike. It wasn't like they synchronized their watches, but everyone had been watching this go down, so in unison as he starts sprinting, all of the lifeguards just blow their whistles at him. And there's like 5-6 guards out on the pool deck, and it's a pretty small pool, so when they all whistle in unison, it's really, really loud. The pool had these tall walls around it, so it echoes off, and then, like, obviously, the sound hits Nathan's eardrums and he reacts. And at first, he's kind of stunned by just the sheer loudness of it. And then, in his best, like, Aslan the Lion roar, just screams, "Stop blowing your whistles at me!" and starts sprinting over to the nearest lifeguard. Well, he's running, and guess what? Running is a violation of the rules, so obviously the lifeguards have to blow their whistles at the rule violation. So they blow their whistle, and he is stunned again because he's like, what is going on? And he gets to the guard and screams, "I said stop blowing the whistle." And he grabs the whistle, which is hanging around this lifeguard's neck, and yanks it. And it's one of those whistles that has like a clasp at the back, so it just kind of gets pulled against his neck and pops off. It doesn't hurt him or anything. And then he throws it in the pool. And the guard wasn't pissed by this. I probably would have been like ready to throw hands with Nathan if he's gonna grab something off my neck. But he's literally laughing in Nathan's face. And, you know, believe it or not, it's also against the rules to yank something off of a lifeguard. So all the lifeguards decide to blow their whistle again. And they're basically trolling him. They're just gonna keep whistling at him until he decides to leave or stops acting like a moron. Good idea. And Nathan, being the absolute monster he is, starts running over to a different lifeguard. And as he's running over, they all blow the whistle. And before he can even get to the second lifeguard, he realizes that he's not gonna win this one. Life isn't some video game where, like, there's an objective to take every guard's whistle. Not like all of a sudden some pop-up appeared on the left side of Nathan's vision. Objective, destroy all whistles to activate the boss fight. Like, nothing was gonna happen. He was just gonna keep getting whistled at. They were eventually gonna dive into the pool and get the whistles back. So he decides to give up. And so he walks back over to his chair and starts packing up all the things he had brought to the pool, right? And he's trying to pack up, but he's really angry and he's yelling about, you know, how unfair they've treated him, blah, 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 shouldn't have blown the whistle. And he's so angry while he's trying to pack up his stuff that it's taking him longer to pack it up. Like, you ever seen someone really pissed off trying to fidget with a zipper and they're just, I hate you, but they can't get the zipper and you're trying not to laugh because it's like, man, it's not funny that you're this mad, but it's funny that you're screaming at me and can't unzip something. That's basically what he's got going on with his backpack. And he's screaming about how he hates every lifeguard there and they suck and he won't be coming back. He'll be using the other pool in the community. And like I said, this particular pool was in like a neighborhood development type of thing for people that lived there. And they had two of them, one on either side of the neighborhood. So theoretically, he could use another pool and never have to see these lifeguards again. And that was his threat, was that he was never going to come back to this pool. And that's not a very good threat when the lifeguards hate you enough to be planning like this huge plan to piss you off as much as humanly possible. The lifeguards don't care that you're never coming back here. If anything, they're probably like, let's go, finally, huge W. And he ends up walking out of the pool. He stomps off pretty angrily, but as he turns around, he flips off the subscriber and says something along the lines of like, this is the most unprofessional group I've ever seen, blah, 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 blah. But the subscriber decides to just blow his whistle at him for 1 second just to troll him anymore. And so he blows his whistle and Nathan yells, I said stop blowing your whistle, and starts running off the pool deck out to the facility. And as he's running, the cacophony of whistles starts sounding one last time just to piss him off. One last, hey, no running in the pool. And he turns back and flips him off again. And so now Nathan's gone, apparently never gonna come back. He's learned his lesson. The chemical cleaning took too long. And all the guards are standing there laughing because it was their plan to troll him, but they didn't expect it to go as well as it did. Like it was a bonus event. But all the whistling actually inspired their manager to get up for once. So their manager comes out of the air conditioning area and is like, hey, why do you guys all keep whistling? We can hear it in there. And the subscriber decides to reply and says that somebody had been running and the rules say that they're supposed to blow the whistle at anyone breaking the rules, so that's what they did. And the manager is kind of stuck because he didn't see anything. Obviously, they weren't really paying attention until they heard the whistling. And technically, it is part of their training to blow the whistle at people breaking the rules, so he couldn't really scream at them for it, but he knew something was a little bit off about it. He was skeptical, but, you know, that's one of the best parts about your manager not paying attention is they don't really have anything that they can say about you because they didn't see it. Just went on back to the air conditioning, and all the lifeguards continued to laugh about it because they knew that they had basically gotten away with it. And I'm not saying that their plan was some type of tactical genius. I don't think it would be used in modern military functions, but it did end up working because as long as the subscriber was working at that pool, Nathan never did show back up. I don't know if that's because he really hates the guards that much. Maybe he got home and thought about it some more and was insanely embarrassed. That's what I'm voting for. If I had a freak out like that in a public place and like started screaming that I really hate all the workers in this Walmart and they suck and they're stupid and pathetic, and then went home and realized how big of a jerk I was, I would just know that you can never go to that Walmart again. Like, you just can't show your face in a place where you've had a freak out of this magnitude. So sure, while it was petty trolling, it did work, so you can't really hate it for the simple reason that it was effective. especially because he could just go to another pool. It's not like he had to show his face around there. Still got the benefits of swimming without having to see all the people that pissed him off. Just don't act like Nathan. There's no reason to be screaming at people that are just doing their job, especially if their job might pertain to having to save your life. It's better to be nice to them, I promise. No matter how much you convince yourself that it's not, it is just better to be nice. Not to everybody. Some dude gives you a weird look on the bus. Hey, tell him he's weird. But someone's gonna, be nice to you. Okay, be nice back. Anyways, guys, that'll do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. I thought it was a pretty good story time, so I would share it with y'all. If you did enjoy it, I would really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. If you don't know what to comment, just go ahead and comment "lifeguards can't swim" down below. It just helps the video do better, and I'd appreciate it. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on those notifications so you never miss another video. I post pretty often. If you really want to help me out, I do post the audio versions of these videos up on Spotify. If you want to listen offline without gameplay, whatever floats your boat, a link can be found in the description. And on top of that, I went ahead and made a playlist of my favorite videos I've released this year so far. That can also be found in the description. Feel free to check it out. I would very much appreciate ya. But on that note, that'll officially do it. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I will see each and every single one of you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.